All right, so we're going to get started. Just give me 1 second here. I'm pulling up some resumes and some other stuff. We came right down to the wire in this today because we were reviewing resumes, and then we also were entering them in to the database under like dummy names. And so not dummy names, but in fake names. So we could do searches and so forth and show you how you can actually find jobs, how we would find jobs for you based on what was done with your resume, and then also based on the revised resume that you'd receive. So let me start off. I'm going to have this document sent to everyone who's registered for the call. You should receive it. I don't know that this is the most current one, but it's one that covers all the rules. There might be some, it might be longer, other ones that I've sent, but this is a quick one that I wrote up for everyone. And actually, I think there might be a misspelling here. I think the rule is actually, and I didn't proofread this because someone else did, but I think there's apostrophe actually after the S and then there's no additional S. I think that's the rule. That's something I remember when I was practicing law that used to confound lawyers in terms of the best way to do that. These rules that I'm going to go over with you real quick before we go to the resume review are things that everyone needs to be doing. What I've done today is we had a lot of people, a lot of resume submissions. A lot of the resume submissions that we had were for people with resumes that are making so many mistakes that there's no way they're ever going to get a job. And they're probably very confused about the mistakes and why they're not getting interviews. And in most cases, it's due to violating these rules. So if you're not getting interviews and you're not getting jobs and nothing seems to be moving forward for you, in almost all cases, these resumes are not meeting these rules. And so you can take a look at this document when I send it to you, and I'll go over some of this stuff with you real briefly before we go to the resume rules. But you can take a look at this document and it will very quickly allow you to understand what you may be doing wrong on your resume that's preventing you from getting these rules. Because these rules, by the way, are if you're violating these, you're almost certain not to get interviews because these rules are just so basic, but most resumes violate these. There's a couple of types of resumes we'll go over today. There's a lot of foreign attorneys that try to work in the US. There's a lot of academics that try to work. There's a lot of people from government positions. There's a lot of people that have done a lot of different things. So I'll go over these rules with you briefly. I don't want to spend too much time on them, but I want to emphasize their importance because if we don't get to your resume today, this guide is going to show you everything that you need to do to fix your resume and should help you quite a bit. And you'll see what I'm doing when I start reviewing the resumes. One other exciting thing that I'm going to do today also is show you, redact the names, but I'm going to show everyone like how you would go in and how I would find jobs for people once they perfect their resumes. And then a final thing is that a lot of the resumes that I'm going to review when we start are going to be resumes that are actually pretty good, but need modification. But I'm trying to show people where you should be going with your resume and what other people are doing that is good. And so my intent here today is not to embarrass people or create issues. I've done this before, and frankly, people have been very hurt by these resume reviews. And that's certainly the intent. The intent is to help you get a job. So this is very important stuff. If you're making these mistakes, you can do all the achievements and get all the rewards and do everything in the world, and you're still not going to get the position. So I'm going to go over these very quickly. You should never talk too much about not practicing law. A lot of times people put things on there that they're just going on and on about not practicing law. That's not good. You should be looking at things that are right away that are talk about the practice of law. And that when you read the resume, it looks like that's what the person wants to do. People summarize your experience. So people will, at the beginning of the resume, it's very common for older attorneys or for people that are in-house or for people that go to resume companies. They summarize their experience at the top of the resume as if an employer isn't capable of reading their resume to understand that. People look at your resume and these are attorneys. Their job is to look at information and process it and reach conclusions and summary in their mind. That's what you do when you're in law school, when you take case law. It's just crazy. You don't need to summarize your experience. Other things that people do, and this particular document, I don't like. Let me just see here. Give me 1 second. No, I don't have it open, but this document, you're welcome to look at it. This isn't written by me, but it is the rules. But some of these things, Harrison Barnes, I certainly didn't write that. But you need to make also clear in your resume that you don't have priorities other than practicing law. This is crazy too. These people will write things, and people will write things on the resume that talk about their interest in the pro bono, and how much they are interested in that. Their priorities about these hobbies and things that everyone in the world knows take an incredible amount of time. You can't, no, your resume needs to read as a document to get you a legal job in a law firm. And you have to do that. There's a lot of resumes we'll see with people that have had multiple jobs in a short period of time. That's not good. People, if you have that on your resume, you need to summarize these jobs under one caption. You cannot, if you're junior, if you're older, you've been practicing 20, 30 years, it's okay. But law firms do not want to see multiple jobs because it's just going to look like you're moving around a lot. And you have to be able to explain that. And they will hire someone that hasn't moved around. You need to look manageable. So a lot of times people will have all this stuff on their resume about starting businesses and leading groups of people and being the number one person in this and the number one person in that, or the highest this or the highest that. Like, people want people that are going to be manageable. If you look like you're just all out for self-grat and you're never going to work for people, no one's going to want to hire you. They don't want entrepreneurs. Hell no. They may want entrepreneurial people at the partnership level. And if those entrepreneurs have shown that they can generate a lot of business, they'll like them. But no, the entrepreneurs are people that are out to start businesses, out for themselves, going to change in the lick of a dime. How many companies has Elon Musk started? He started SpaceX. He started PayPal. He started X.com before XCOM or something. Before that, he started Tesla. He started Tesla Solar. This is what entrepreneurs do. You can't hold someone like that down and expect them to work in a law office. You wouldn't want to hire them to work for you and churn out hours and your clients. Working as part-time as a contract attorney, we'll see a lot of that sort of stuff. But you often are better off not listing that than listing anything. And I'll explain to you why. Because it just doesn't help you, because it looks like, why would a law firm hire someone that's not working full-time as a full-time job? You have to think about that, unless they're the best person. They want specialists, not generalists. This is another huge mistake. People will hire people in almost all cases that are specialists. They don't hire people that do 15 different things. They don't. Why would they? Their clients want, but sometimes in very rural or small firms, that may be okay, but generally not. People want younger people in most law firms, because the law firms typically operate as a up or out type of thing, where after you get a certain number of years of experience, you're expected to have business. It doesn't mean you always have to, but you need to figure out a way. We'll talk about how to emphasize your experience when your age. Academics, law firms hate academics. Academics sit around, discuss ideas, and go off on tangents about theories and spend a lot of time in school not practicing law. It's people that are PhDs, unless it's in some scientific discipline and you're like, I don't know, you're a scientific discipline and you're a patent attorney, that's good. That's actually good. But people that go to school and get PhDs and whatever, not related to practice of law, it doesn't always work. It can. I've seen people, I saw one resume yesterday of someone that went to Princeton and got a PhD, which is pretty incredible. And it was in something like English and then went to a Yale Law School and now practices corporate law. So you can do it, but for the most part, academics are different than lawyers. It's just different. Watch them. And that doesn't help you. You may think more education's good, but not necessarily is. Bar admissions, I'll just talk about that, listing those. If you just took the bar in California and you're working in New York looking for another job, people are going to wonder, is that person going to California? And of course, this is very simple law school information at the end of your resume. If you have more than 5-year experience, that's a very good, simple rule. I've been suggesting this for a long time. Now people are doing it, which is great. Almost every person does that. But you don't list your activities unless they make you look extraordinary. You don't need to list 15 different things that you were on, journals and clubs. And what is your biggest thing you did in law school? The fact that you joined the cooking club or something, or the students representing some group? What? You don't need to put that on there. You can put on law review or being head of a journal or member of a journal or something. But if you put a lot of less impressive things, people are going to think, why weren't their grades better? What did they not have time for studying? You have to be careful. Your skills, you don't want to list the fact Lexis or email. People literally will write on their resume that they know how to use email and expect to get hired. Come on. That's like saying you know how to speak English. Same thing with Lexis. You know how to use Lexis? That's great. This is something that newspaper reporters learn when they're interns at the age of 15 in a freaking local newspaper. Come on. You don't list the stuff on your resume. You make yourself look like you don't write things on your resume that are awesome. You just leave them out. You're just giving kind of a word salad. It doesn't matter. Why would someone hire an attorney that can't focus? And it's just, you've seen an attorney like that in court? They'll just go on and on. The judge will interrupt. And the worst freaking attorneys imaginable. You don't put that stuff on your resume. It makes you look bad. You don't tell people you have references. That's condescending. They want references, they will ask for them. You don't say, if you don't put references available on request, that it's assumed that they won't ask for references or something. It's just crazy. People do this. You don't tell people references are available. This is an employer. You're going to work for them and they're going to report to you. If you're going to report to them, if they want freaking references, they can have references. You don't tell them that you're going to give them as if you're doing them a favor. And then you don't give people, I don't really know what these articles are. Okay. I guess this is anyway, I don't like this document that you were sent. But again, I'll send an updated one. But if you have any job where you're giving yourself these titles that make it look like you're not practicing law, marketing director, all this sort of thing, it's just, no, you don't want to, you don't give yourself titles that aren't related to practicing law if you can all avoid it. The other thing I saw the other day is just people calling themselves an equity partner of a 2-person law firm that they started with their friend when they got out of law school. You have to be very careful with these titles and throwing them around because it just doesn't make you look good. Short-time jobs in your resume. I saw several resumes just yesterday where people were listing jobs they had for 1 month. And then why? It's like saying, hey, I lost my job after 1 month. No, it means, what does that say to the employer? What's the point of, we'll talk about ethics. So you are welcome to put down the position if you're in it for 3 weeks. I do not consider that a job. But if you want to, I consider that something that you just didn't like and didn't work out right away or vice versa. But if you want to make a big deal out of it, that's up to you. Your resume also needs to be consistent. It can't move around too much in terms of practice areas and locations and practice settings, like meaning in-house, law firm, government. If your resume is moving around, then the only conclusion that an employer can reach is that there's just no focus, and why would we hire that person? So they want a clear focus. You should make sure that you have a very clear focus of your expertise and what you want to do. And your practice areas are all looking consistent. You just need to have it. People do not want to hire dabblers. That means people that don't know what they're going to do. They're moving around between practice areas. They've figured out they don't know what they want to do, all that stuff. And then this is another one. And again, I'm just going through these real briefly because almost all of these are going to be covered when we start reviewing resumes, but you can't put excessive information on your resume. It needs to be focused and meets concise. People do not need to read more than a 1-page resume. I have seen attorneys that are managing some of the 10 largest law firms in the United States. The partners that have been started the 3 jobs maybe in their career are running a 2,500 attorney law firm, are making $8.5 million a year in guaranteed compensation, and their resume is 1 page. Their resume is 1 page. Okay. Most partners in the largest freaking law firms making $5+ million a year, their resume is 1 page. So who do you think you are freaking applying for a job as an associate out of law school with a 10-page resume? I'm not saying every giant partner's resume is that many pages, but if you've done enough, you don't have to say a lot. If you've done something well, you don't have to say a lot. I remember when I started recruiting, I got one of the first resumes I saw one of the, not first resumes, but the first really good resume I saw was also someone that was able to get pretty much any job he wanted. And he was coming to San Diego, didn't have the bar, which is pretty hard to get a job. His resume just said, just 3 years out of law school. The top it said Harvard Law School, Harvard Law Review. That was it. Graduation date. And it said college. It was some good college like Amherst or something. BA in political science. Then the next one was, it was like a good firm, Goodwin Procter, summer associate class, associate 5 years, worked in the corporate department, specializing in M&A. The resume had nothing on it and nothing. And you might have had a couple other lines discussing a few things, but it was a very short resume. There wasn't really a need to say anything. I think he talked about maybe what he did in the second summer, or I don't know, but there wasn't really anything on it. And that's the best. You don't need to say anything else. Why would you have a resume that it's focused? People know what that is. They know what Harvard Law School is. You don't have to say it's the number 2 ranked firm. And people do this too. They say the number 23rd ranked firm in environmental science. And you don't need to say a lot. Why? Just look good. You look better saying less than more. And so you don't have to have the super long resumes. The other one is upward mobility. We're almost done with these. I don't want to spend too much time on them, but these are just very important for you to understand, because every resume, if you run it through this calculus, is making these, but you don't want to show downward mobility. Or sideways too much. You need to be moving for a reason. And then I see all these resumes of people from foreign countries that want to get a job in the US. So I went to school, I practiced my first law firm job with a guy that had gone to law school in Scotland and had come over to the US and gotten an LLM from Harvard Law School, and then had gotten a job at this great law firm, Quinn Emanuel, because he had a friend there was another guy that had gone to Harvard Law School that had gotten an LLM from there and had come to the firm, was doing very well. And so this particular Harvard Law School guy, he got him a job, but this guy wanted to come to work in another firm, and he'd worked at Quinn Emanuel, and then he wanted to come to a firm that I'd moved to. And so he had this resume that said Harvard Law School, this law school and college in Scotland, and then Quinn Emanuel, a little bit of stuff about that. But he did something that was very powerful. So instead of sending a very long resume and stuff, he just attached a letter from his law school, and the law school said there were 600 students in his class. He was ranked 2. He's also from a disadvantaged family and part of this minority group in Scotland. And he was number 2 in his class. This is something that we've never seen. That was it. Just a few letters. So you don't need to say a lot. You just, if something's really good, you say it. And I remember once I got a recommendation letter from who was a well-known founder or something of No Fault Insurance. And I asked him for a recommendation for a judge. And the recommendation that he wrote was something very simple. I've been a law professor for 30, 40 years. And if I were you, I would definitely hire him or something like that. I never say this to about people when I recommend them, because there's always some doubt, and that was it. So something very short is good. When you summarize your experience, people will summarize your experience in ways that make no sense and don't put their best foot forward. So you need to do that. Solo practitioners, you need to be very careful with that. We'll look at some of that as well, but you have to be careful. People call themselves corporate leaders, amazing negotiators, and all these things. You don't want to compliment yourself. You always want to let the reader of a resume reach these conclusions, but you need to be very careful, because the way that lawyers think is if someone's saying they're great, they're going to look for ways to dress them down, and that is important. People also put the bar admissions at the top of their resume. The most basic thing for an attorney, the very most basic thing, is to take the bar and pass it. So when you put that at the top of your resume, if you're applying for an attorney job, it's presumed that you passed the bar. Like, why would you apply for a firm? It's not something you need to brag about and think. Some people will apply for the bar in the first pass in the first attempt, and that's great. But in California, it's a big deal. But at the same time, it's presumed. You don't want to do anything that makes you, great. And then the next one is you want to make sure that you maximize your strengths and minimize your weaknesses. So you don't try to talk about weaknesses on the resume. If they are weak, you just don't talk about them, and you can do it like that. And the next one is just you have to run all resumes that you do. You have to run them through Grammarly and Pro Writing Aid and so forth, because if you don't, most people make mistakes. Again, the most basic requirement of an attorney is to be able to write in a legible manner that makes sense. So yeah, you have to be able to do that. Okay, so we will start looking at resumes right now, but I will resend this document. This just isn't my words, and I don't even know where these links are going. Actually, yeah, looks like it's going to good articles. Review these, please, because everybody whose resume I'm reviewing, almost always they're making these mistakes. So you have to take a look at your resume and you have to say, where does it talk about not practicing law? Is this smart? Is this helping me? Or am I summarizing my experience? Am I doing that's a bad idea? How am I summarizing all these different jobs? Am I making myself look unmanageable? So this, by the way, this little document here will save your life. It'll save your legal career if you follow these rules, because and it's sad because I don't know how many resumes that we received prior to this for this, but there was just over and over. I've got 30 resumes where people are summarizing their experience. I've got people that are talking about how they're entrepreneurs and things. You have to be very careful. So that's what I'm begging you to do, is to follow these rules, go through them, and then put a checklist, put a check mark against every one of these if you're not doing it, and figure out how to do this, because you have to. Please do, because otherwise all this resume review isn't going to do you any good. And then you may say, who is Harrison to tell you about these rules? What does his opinion mean? My opinion is, that's only because I've been doing the same thing for the past quarter of a century. I also review every single resume that comes into BCG. I'm operating a competitive company in a business. So the only thing I can possibly do is make sure that the company makes money. And the only way the company makes money is when people have this on their resumes. I've been able to employ at one time 850 people by making sure these rules are followed. Now, it's not meaning 850 employees in my company. Now, I don't have that many employees anymore because we can do this stuff anyway. But the point is that if you follow these rules, these are the rules that I need to look at on resumes in order to have a viable business, because I need to place people. And I've over 650,000 attorneys have sent me their resume in the country. So that's a lot of people, and I have to go through them, and these are what I look for. And if there's too much of this, then I know that the person won't get a job, and the company cannot put its resources into people when they're not going to get jobs. So if you're doing these things, most times if you're doing it too much, you're not going to get hired, or you're not going to get anywhere near the number of jobs you should be getting. So please look at this, run your resume through it. And again, when I go through resumes, I'm not trying to be cruel or anything. All I'm doing is making sure that I'm getting things done properly. Okay, so this is the first resume. These resumes are a little bit out of order because I didn't give clear instructions to the people working with me about how to put them in order, but this one is okay. There's a little bit of issue here. This is not this person's fault, because that was our fault because we didn't convert the document as a PDF into the correct thing. But this is that. So let's talk about this resume and what this person could have done differently. First of all, you don't list you're in the top 30% of your class. Even if you go to people that Columbia Law School has this award, Harlan Fiske Scholar, for whatever it's from being not at the very top, but in this group it's towards the top. People put that on their resume, but it's Columbia Law School. It's like the 5th ranked freaking law school in the country. So yeah, that's cool. You can say you were in the top. You can put down you got that award if you go to Columbia. I have no problem with that. But if you don't go to a top 10 law school, you don't want to draw attention to the fact that you're at the top you're not at the very top. Now, if this person was number 10 out of 250 people or something, yeah, you would list that. But you don't ever want to list that you're in the top 30% or something like that. You wouldn't even list it if you went to Columbia Law School. You would, if you didn't get a if you were a Harlan Fiske Scholar, you would put that down. But People don't list that they're in the top 30% of their class if they go to Stanford or something. No, no one cares. It's not. You don't ever want to emphasize anything doesn't make you look strong. Anytime you emphasize something that doesn't make you look very strong, it's not helping you. If a law firm wants to, and they have the money, they can hire someone from the top 1% of their class or 2%. Why would you emphasize that? You just don't. I don't know how to keep going on along this stuff. Cali election for commercial law, friend of the Justice Pro Bono Scholar, Charles Hammond, Houston National team captain. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so I don't know what that means, but it's a team captain of a moot competition. No, you don't need to list that. Student Bar Association. No, all of this, I'm sorry. Is this thing even editable? Yeah, it's a Word document. But all of this stuff right here, there's none of this. Saying you took classes you were interested in. No. What? No. Like you're saying the classes you were interested in. No. Geez, what the heck? No one cares. Again, I'm not trying to hurt this person's feelings, but when the law school or someone taught this person this was okay, I'm sorry, but no. It's not an honor to be a friend of the justice, to be representative in antitrust and intellectual property. No, so this resume, by the way, if you just do it, let's even try something else here. Okay, so just go file, save, what I'm doing here, resume form. So we look at Grammarly here. Let's see what's going on with this. Okay, so there's a bad comma there. Let's see what else we got going on here. So this would be clients. You can see that. So it shouldn't say client. Complete the sentence. Fix the agreement mistake, remove the comma, complete the sentence, change the wording, complete the sentence, spell out words. This person is doing something where the word should be spelled out. Then they're saying change the form of the verb, remove the comma, complete the sentence. This resume, again, I'm not trying to hurt this person's feelings. I'm trying to help you. It is a freaking landmine. It's showing that, and I want everyone to understand. And again, this resume, by the way, this is one of the better resumes I received because it's doing a lot of stuff right. But I'm just showing you can't reasonably expect it to get a job if you have incomplete sentences, if you have sentence fragments, if you have incomplete sentences, and if you have words that should be, look at this, manage committee records, external and external. So this, by the way, is a period. So look at this. This person is starting a sentence with a lowercase word. I'm sorry, this is very hard for me to look at. Okay, then here, this person forgot to add a hyphen. Wow. Okay, this is painful because some law school allowed this to pass through and didn't tell this person to run your resume through Grammarly. And look at that. It's astonishing. Correspond with client regarding legal analysis and strategy. I mean, is this really something that should be talked about? Okay, I don't want to get too bogged down on these resumes and this one in particular, but I'll just want to, and I'm going to close Grammarly for this resume from now on. But I just need to just really very carefully show this person and everyone on this call. And the thing is, by the way, when schools or when people allow this to happen with resumes, you're paying for hundreds of thousands of dollars for a law degree, and yet no one is telling them about these rules. You certainly get your tuition money, and they get your life and your commitment to their school. That people get high salaries working in these, helping you. Summers off. This is crazy. This is a tragedy when you see stuff like that, because no one is going to. Why would anybody hire someone for, look, there's a comma missing there. Okay. Very sad. Very sad. It's tragedy. Okay. So all this we talked about comes off. You can't say that you enjoyed legal research and writing. That is so far removed from what belongs on a resume. Bachelor of Arts, cum laude, political science, English minor. No, you don't need to talk about a minor. What the hell does that make? Golden Key International Honor Society, athletic row, women's cross country and track field captain. Okay, so you don't need to say that's leadership. Like, why would you tell somebody that being a cross country team field captain is an example of leadership? That's like saying I argued a court case That's an example of being a lawyer. The honors athletic director honor roll, no one knows what that means. You don't have to tell people these are honors. This stuff's okay, like that. It's good. You don't need to say professional. People know what people know. This is like saying, hey, just in case you didn't understand it, this is what's professional and not professional. What? So you just say professional. I just want to say right offhand that it really is a tragedy when this kind of stuff happens. And people, you really look at because just the stuff with the school right there makes the person look a lot better. Now, we're May 2019, by the way. So what does that mean? That means it's about time for this person to move their experience, the rules 5 years, down to their schools, down to the bottom. And frankly, if you didn't go to a 20 law school, you want to stop talking about your freaking school as soon as possible. You got to get it down there in the bottom, because otherwise you're just leading with that. And leading with top 30% is not going to help you anywhere. It's just no. Okay, so this person now, since August, has been a securities litigation staff attorney with some firm or something. And they're saying they've reviewed and researched applicable law under the 1934 and there's Taxation Act. Okay, so for those of you who don't know about securities, this is pretty much the big deal that people do in securities. So you just take that out. You don't need to say anything about it if you've only had the job. If this is all you've done in the past 4.5 months, not a good idea. You've taken off. Okay. Now we're at securities litigation staff attorney. You don't have to say staff. Why would you say staff? Maybe this is a law firm. I don't know what it is. You could say attorney. Why would you draw attention to the fact that you're a staff attorney? You're a securities litigation attorney. You have a bar. It doesn't matter what they ask you. What do you do? Then you would say, I'm an attorney. And they say, you're an associate? And say, no, I'm an attorney. I guess you call me staff. Wow. Okay. So what's happening here? Now this person has had this job they've been at for 4 months, right? Okay. It's okay. And now they got another job for a month. No. So here, it's not impressive to any law firm that you worked on with clients, impressive to clients that you just did these things. There's almost no explanation needed for having worked at some place for 1 month. And because you were an associate, and then all of a sudden you're a contract attorney. And this looks like an insurance defense associate. So this person worked in an insurance defense firm, right? And then here, they also work in an insurance defense firm. Just for those of you that don't know, this is a very marketable practice area. We have lots of insurance defense jobs. I think that that's great. This person, by the way, they've had this job for only 5 months. This person was doing insurance defense, so that's good. There's nothing wrong with that as a practice area. I don't know why this person is doing securities litigation now, but they haven't. But they really just need to talk about what they did. So I'm assuming that they wrote briefs. I'm assuming that they did discovery or whatever. You don't list things that don't sound important. If they're not important, see, litigators they do motions, they write memos, they do discovery, they go to court, they take depositions. So you want to list things that are relevant to what a law firm needs and what they hire people for. They don't hire people that can have to analyze, the pretrial motions. Okay. That's it. You don't need to say, if somebody has to file a pretrial motion, they always have to look at the rules of civil procedure. So looking at the rules of civil procedure before filing a motion is, again, it's like saying, hey, I'm a lifeguard in a pool and I look out and I use my lifesaver to help rescue people. So you would say lifeguard, looked at, practice best practices with the lifeguard. These are things that anybody does. You can't put that. You need to put things that are relevant. So that just comes out. There's no reason to put that. And there's also no reason, and then you could put insurance defense. There's also no reason to talk about you had a job for 1 month. I don't know what happened there. I don't know if the firm went out of business or whatever happened, but it's just none of it's good. It's not something that I believe belongs there. That's just my opinion. You could ask your school or what they think. I'm not an expert in the morality of this, or even the laws of professional responsibility, listing a job you've had for 2 weeks. So maybe you could look that up. I'm not telling you to do something illegal that violates any rules, but I am telling you, I'm trying to help you. I probably would not say this to one of my candidates because I don't want them to get in trouble or violate rules. And I need to be honest with firms. But I don't know that that makes sense, any stretch of the imagination to have to list that. That's crazy. How is that going to help you? Okay, so now the person says manage discovery. And again, there's all these issues. We just said frank and agreement mistakes, this. And by the way, I'm just going to go on as a slide. There's a lot of prejudice sometimes of people from insurance defense firms because they often don't write well. They make a lot of mistakes. And so this may not even be caught if the person's applying to another insurance defense firm, because insurance defense firms typically represent people they work for insurance companies trying to save money and defend litigation they know is going to settle anyway. And so they're concerned more about saving money. And so the attorneys don't necessarily need to write this well, because if you see someone from a really good commercial litigation firm, none of this would ever happen because the clients have a lot more money to spend, but insurance companies typically don't have a lot of money to spend. So this is something as well. Oh, by the way, I see there's a lot of questions, and I will answer questions at some point during this. I'm going to get through resumes that represent different practices and stuff, but just to show you that if you were at a law firm for 2 years or almost 2 years and you drafted 15 firm clients' assessment of merits of the facts and recommendation, that's just crazy. It doesn't really say a lot. So you would probably want to remove that. You wouldn't say 10 or more motions. So what does that mean? You don't know how many? Who would count? Why would you count? So you just say motions to compel discovery, motions to dismiss, and let's get all these issues managed, add an article. Okay, so then this person was an intern, which is a good length of time for 4 months. No, managing a calendar is not something that you should be proud of. It's not really much to do with that. Yeah, this is interesting. I don't know that you need a lot of this information, and then here you did this for 2 months and yet you have all this information. A lot of this can come out. You don't want a lot of the detail here. Honestly, you can certainly have this, but you would probably want to summarize all this in just one line. Same here, you could summarize in just one line. That's probably okay. And then law clerk, no, you don't need all that. You can see what's happening with this resume. They're just what? Oh, it's a year. That's actually good. I don't have a problem with that. But again, you just have a little bit there. So I'm showing everyone these errors that this person makes are very common. It's not in your saying pretty secretary. Okay, that's very interesting. I like that. That looks pretty good. Yeah, that's not great. That's great. I don't have a problem with that. This too, I don't have a problem with. This is great. These volunteer experience normally. I tell people not to leave it on there, but this is actually very good. This to me says the person's interested in trust law and also interested in the law academy. What I don't like, I don't want to be rude, but antitrust is this very cerebral, difficult practice area that attracts people from the best law schools and working on huge matters that require people far smarter than me, and that not always, but again, you got to capitalize this. But the point is that that would be here's an example. So in order to be a patent attorney, you need to pass the patent bar and have a scientific background and preferably a master's degree in a scientific discipline or even a PhD is cool in order to do that. So if I were to put the Los Angeles Patent Bar Association on my frickin' resume and say I was the patent bar committee secretary, people would look at that and say, what the hell's going on? Like, why would I put that down? So I don't know what this is, but it doesn't look like something that should be there. I like this because look what I did. This shows, anyway, we're almost done with this resume. So this shows the person's interested in helping inner city school servants, which I actually really like. I think that's pretty awesome. So you can look at all this stuff and see if the person's interested. Now, if you do all this, resumes actually could be marketable. It could be. I think that and again, I'm sorry for spending so much time on this particular person's resume, but just see if I can find the original resume. But I just want to show someone show you what could be done with this resume. If I had, fortunately, I don't know what resume this is. Let me just see here. I would like to show how this person is marketable with a good resume, but I don't have something that I'm missing. Yeah, let me just see here. Oh, could you also, I don't see this resume in this list. I may come back to this because I'm not sure of the person's name, but it would be very useful for us to look at that. I will come back to that. Let me just do one little thing here to see if I can find this resume. Because what I wanted to do for this person was I wanted to actually go into our database. But Jared, this number one isn't on the list of these. Maybe needs to be printed. I wanted to go into our database and show this person insurance, a focused resume, like how that could be done. So just give me 1 second, because I want to show what these transformations can mean to these resumes, and then how many positions someone would be able to get once all this stuff is fixed. So let me just figure this out. Let me see. Just give me 1 second. Let me name one matches with resume. Okay, just email. Okay. That's still perfect. Give me 1 second. I'm going to fix it. Sorry, I'm just pulling up this person's resume. So this is fun, and we'll go through a lot of the additional resumes much more quickly. But the reason I'm doing this way is because I want to make sure that people can see. I want to make sure that everything is fixed up. Okay, great. So what I've done here with this resume is this is not the person's name, but I've gone in to the BCG database and I've changed more of them so you can just understand this is not the real person, but this is what the resume would look like in our database, which we spent over $100 million in things programmed. So let's go look and see exactly what I would do. So the completed resume, which we've just analyzed, is right here. So this is the resume. So what the resume would be, the new one would be, is it would just be this stuff. We could put the securities litigation attorney on if we wanted, or we could just remove it. I would probably I guess you've been there for 4 months, so you probably want to leave it, but you could theoretically just remove it. And then you would have someone, let me just show you another thing here, just so you understand. So this person says they managed discovery of 103 and more auto accidents. You would just say, I'm sorry, but managed discovery of automatic property damage, insurance coverage claims, by drafting plaintiff's responses to plaintiffs right here. That's this you've capitalized. And I just want people to show you like how much this hurts you. So if you're capitalizing plaintiffs and you're not capitalizing defendants, what is up with that? Like, why? Okay. So we go into this person's resume and if you were to select, I want to give you an understanding. So let's say this person in New Jersey, Southern New Jersey, New York City. So you go in, and if this person looks like a insurance defense attorney, that's all the resume is, meaning it's not seeing securities. It's only seeing insurance defense. It's doing all that. So you go and you trucking, auto defense, insurance defense, general. Those would be the practice areas because that's what the resume says. And it's got all these things to go, right? And this person doesn't have to anymore figure out what to apply to. They know what they are. This is another huge thing that people do on their resumes. And I'm very glad that we're using this resume as a focus. People on their resumes will go and they will not even know what they do. They won't even know their practice area. This person, and by the way, I just wanted to make sure you understand, if this person in the current resume would never in a million years get BCG wouldn't work. It's impossible with the current resume. But with this fixed resume, I would say this person got good solid years of two. In the real resume, this person's the female. So you don't need all this other stuff. Someone might just think, oh, they would assume, it's saying, again, you need to list this, you want to list this job, but they would assume just that you were taking time off, children, I don't know. But they really wouldn't hold it against you. 2 years is great. So then this person turns into, whether you do this, you look at this person, you're like, hell yeah, went to law school, cum laude, you got a Juris Doctorate, that's fine. They did all these internships and things. And wow, isn't that nice? Now they're doing this stuff to help inner city kids and taking their education. This is now a good resume. It's actually very good with all these changes because it's not saying a bunch of crap. It's not. Then you fix the spelling and everything and run it through Grammarly, and all of a sudden you're the type of person that the law firm wants to hire instead of this crap that's on there right now. So this can be a good resume. I'm just showing you. You do these things, and this person is employable easily. So where are the jobs for this person? So then we go in and we update their practice areas. So we make them insurance defense, which is what they did their entire career. And you go in and you look at jobs. So what your jobs matching this candidate experience. So these are all the jobs that the person could apply to. These are just jobs right now. These are job orders, meaning these firms have reached out and said, hell, geez, we can't find people. No one's applying to us. We've posted jobs all over. We've done all this. Harrison, help us, please help us find someone, right? So these firms are demanding that we go and find them people. So these firms are doing that. And I'm not saying these are dummy accounts for the firms too, but I'm just giving you an example. Look at this up and down. We need this person. 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 Help us. Help. This is what they're all saying. So I can send these people to these firms in good consciousness if the person's doing that. But these are just the start. This is just the starting list of them. And these are sorted based on experience. So the firms are looking for people exactly like this person, and I would help. And I would probably be able to get them interviews if all these changes were made. It wouldn't be difficult, but all the person needs to do is understand how to write a resume. So all that's fixed, and suddenly there's all these jobs. We have jobs on BCG. We have overlap jobs on lot crossing for this person. There's all these jobs for the person. Now, these rankings you don't need to understand, but the rankings mean basically the size clients they would represent. It's nothing you really need to consider yourself with, but all these jobs here. Then we have, we have jobs that with firms that have interviewed people just like this person from us previously. So let me make sure the name doesn't come up in that. Okay, so I can't do that, but these are all firms that have interviewed people very much like this person from us recently. So this one interviewed someone in 1223, this one, and these are in the regions, and this firm's interviewed 25 people. This firm's interviewed 25. This has interviewed one. And so these firms are interviewing a lot of our people. So obviously there's a lot of opportunity. Then you can look at, and again, I'm just showing you how many freaking jobs there are if you have a good resume. These are recommended firms. And this is what we do with BCG candidates, by the way. We go through and we review all this. Now there's another 72 firms that do this practice area that will be good for this person, right? So we can look at that and find these are places that they're on different lists. They've interviewed people. They've given us job orders, like all this sort of stuff. So there's 72 firms there. There's probably at least another 50 on the active jobs. Then because insurance defense firms are always looking for people, right? So we can go in and look at something called the BCG archive and look at all the firms that have had openings in the past. And here we go. Look at this. All these firms have had openings for insurance defense attorneys in the past. And the thing is that most of the time when a firm jobs just exactly what you would need, all of these firms have ongoing hiring for these types of people. So you have that. So now you've got all these firms, like these lists of things are huge. And then you've got, anyway, I'm not going to get too far into it, but with a good resume, this person can be marketed up and down. This is what I do at BCG. This is how we make placements. It's with this kind of thing. So then you go and you can even look at, there's 91 other firms that have interviewed people through us in insurance defense that just keep doing it. These lists just go on and on if you have a good resume. But right now, I don't want to spend too much more time on this, but the condition that this person's resume is in is unemployable. But you could turn them from employable to a frickin' rock star if the things are done right. The people make themselves look bad, not like rock stars. Okay, so let's look at this person. This is the next resume. This resume should be a very good resume because these law schools and things that we put down are good. So let's look at this. This is actually good. So this person has right here has the law school with a journal. That's all they have. They don't talk about their ranking. Virginia Law School, I don't know what it is. I went there, but it's usually a top 10 school. So that's fine. That's a good thing to list. You don't have to say like all of these things that you did because the law school says a lot. So you don't need to say that. Then this person had a job for for 6 months and now they're unemployed apparently, and or maybe 5 months, I don't know, 6 months. And look at just so you can see the difference. Yeah, let's see this here. So look at the difference between this resume and the one. Look at this is crazy. Look, Grammarly looked at this resume. I just want you everyone to see this. It's down in the right-hand corner. Maybe I'll hold this up just so everyone can see it more. Grammarly's saying no issues found, like in the entire resume. Is this for real? Look at that. I just want everyone to look at that. No issues found. Okay, so this resume, person from University of Virginia Law School, no issue. Look at this. This is incredible. Grammarly has looked at this resume. It doesn't have a single issue with this person. Do you think that's a better resume than the last one we saw? The last one was a minefield of just complete crap and mistakes up and down. This person that went to University Law School and had all this experience is a rock star. Look at all the stuff they did. They did everything correctly. There's not a single Grammarly thing. Even these deals, look at this, sophisticated writing, like they're using semicolons. They're capitalizing the right things. This is amazing, very good compared to the last thing. The type of descriptions of their experience is also very good. It's just the spacing's right, everything. So this is what everyone should aspire to. Also, they call themselves a labor and employment associate. So there's no doubt about the type of work the person does. And then they have all the descriptions of what they do, and they are significant things. They're like summary judgment. That's actually a really important thing to give someone to write. They're showing that they have handbook experience and all this, which is for employment general. And here they didn't work there very long. They worked from September 22 to September 23, and then we're summer associate. Just so everyone understands this particular resume, this person is in trouble. They're in trouble because they haven't had a job for more than 7 months. Now, this is a made up resume, but there's things about it that are true, but they had this job for 7 months, and then they had this job for 5 months. And then all these other things happen. They don't need to say they have juris number. They just have to say, this is the only this person is doing wrong. They can just say they're whatever it is. Now, one thing I want to bring to people's attention is that, and you may be this kind of person on the call, a lot of times when people go to law schools, I think are very good. They're proud of that. And this particular firm, the person worked at, in the real resume, not a great firm. So this person was probably very angry. They didn't get a summer associate job with a big firm. They're angry that there's issues with that. So they may have gone to this next firm. This is a better firm, the second one, and had attitude problems too. So a lot of times when people go to the best law schools and their peers are getting jobs at the biggest firms, they don't give all of themselves because they're mad or something. They have an attitude and they lose jobs. If your resume is like this, there's a lot of very good people. You should be working even harder when you go to, if you don't get off in a good firm, even harder than you would even if you're a big firm. That means you're getting a sign if you're not getting these great jobs that you're in a position where you need to work even harder. You need personality needs to be even harder. So it's not good to have jobs for 6 months. So just giving you that update, that's not something that you want. So let me go here to the next person, to this person's resume. Let me just show you. Now, I like the fact that this person worked in there's things I do like about this resume. I like the fact that this person is in one particular practice group. What I would like to see when you have a resume like that, sometimes you have to understand that people are going to have questions, like what they're going to say to themselves. Why did this person only stay at this job for this many months? Like what is going on? And so that is a problem. But and this happens, by the way, to a lot of new attorneys. The big deal is that's really going on, just understands, is that when you have a resume like that, typically like this particular resume, there's not really a lot of questions about this person's competence. So the person may not be manageable. They may have a chip on their shoulder. There may be something wrong, but this is what employers are seeing. The only reason I'm saying to this stuff is because when you have the stuff, it's going to hurt you. Oops, sorry, I'm just looking. These are just database categories, which I hope this should be interesting to everyone because this is how we look at resumes. I've never shown people this before that didn't have a non-disclosure agreement and the threat of huge penalties and things. But I'm going to show it to you right now. Okay, so this particular person they basically selected the entire state. And you can see I've changed it to different law schools and so forth to protect the person's identity. This person is just so we understand, this person is a labor and employment attorney. They do employment defense. They do compliance. They also do general employment law. So again, you have to know what you do when you're applying for jobs. I do this for everyone that comes into our company, but this is what you have to do. So that's what the person does. They are tell me page. It says here they're in Connecticut. What I would recommend for this person, because they need to turn it up. It looks like their college might have been in Maryland, whatever. They're in Connecticut now. Just for this person to give themselves a few more options, I probably would look, and I'm just telling you, I would right here, we have Danbury, Connecticut. I would look at probably this entire state of Connecticut. All right, so Connecticut. So we got that. So the person's there. One other thing I would just recommend is I don't know what the states are that you could waive into, but this person is at a crisis position and needs to get a job fast. A lot of times people will select Washington, D.C. because they know it's easy to waive into. The person is from Maryland. I would maybe select them. I'm just telling you what I would do, like a Hail Mary, because this person is in trouble. They went to this school in Maryland, so I might select that. I might, if the person grew up in a certain area of the country, I might select that because this is crisis. Like if you don't have a job, you need to apply. So once we do that, I'm just going to show you where all the jobs are, how many jobs there are for this person. There are all these jobs at these firms. These are a lot of places the person can apply in their regions of interest. There are all these jobs. So there's these jobs, a lot of jobs. There's firms that have interviewed people like them some recently. So there's these firms, there's 31 firms. Here's one right in the area of the country where they are. 7 interviews, 4 interviews. Sometimes the placement isn't selected right away because there's all these things that happen that are required for a placement, like a year might need to go by or something for it to be official. But anyway, you can see all of these firms that are focused. Bam, this person had this type of job and interviewed 6 people and so forth. So there's just all these leads that we could send the person to if they're focused. And then it goes on. And then you have recommended firms where you could apply to people too. So you have all these, you have 375 places. You would want to select, these are the 375 firms that are recommended, that are good places. This one, 23, 22. So there's all those. And it's crazy. And then you can go in and let me just see here. When you can search, I would just say you could search employment law for location. Got all these 77 firms that are in close to Danbury, Connecticut. That's Danbury. Then you have other regions of interest. Got 77 firms. You've got 8 in those. So there's so many places. This is what we do at BCG. I'm not trying to, but there's so many possible places that this person could apply to with a good resume. So this is what we do. This is the whole, purpose of our company. These are older firms that have had openings like that. This firm in Stamford had an opening and went for it. So the point is that any resume can go to a lot of places. And my plea, if you have this on your resume, you're unemployed, but you don't have access to all these searches and so forth. But you can go and look up these firms using Google and things and find things. You can do that, and that would be very helpful. But that's one way that you could get this done. Sorry. Give me 1 second. I have to pull up the next resume 3. Okay, so here we go. So this is one of the resumes that's making a lot of the mistakes that I've talked about earlier. I'm doing this resume because this is an interesting resume. This particular resume has done something very rare, which is a good statement on this person's ability to get jobs and a bunch of other things that are important. Now, this is something also, by the way, that tends to happen a lot of times. That happens to people who are in law firms and go in house, and then all of a sudden the resume becomes like a company type resume. I have no idea, but I'm assuming for the sake of this person getting a job, that this person wants to get a job in a law firm. And so that's what we need to do. If they want to get a job in a law firm, this resume needs to look like some similar to this. Now, this would go at the bottom and so forth, but this is a good law firm resume. The person just needs to get off, do anything they can, and apply to as many possible places as they can. I don't care who's told you not to, but this person, came into my database and I probably couldn't help them because they haven't had a job longer than 6 months and unemployed. But if this job is for 2 years and they weren't employed, I would try to give them hundreds of places to apply to. That's just what I would do because that's what they need. Someone's going to have to bite and you need to do that. So this person, let's assume they want to get a job in a law firm. This is, by the way, crazy, the way this is organized. And I'm saying this because if I don't get to all these examples today, it's all the resumes. Every resume that we have that we look at is doing things that other resumes are. So you should, the better off you do. And look at this. Now this resume, see, has all these problems and they're actually not a lot. Look, there's 28. The first one had probably 100. But so there's not a lot. This person is probably just worked at big firm and stuff. There's correct word choice. There's subject verb agreements. There's a lot of things going on. And the problem is when you don't run your resume through Grammarly and things like that, what you're showing is that even on the most important document for you getting a job, you're unable to write and put things together as a good lawyer should. Now, this resume, by the way, this is someone that went to a great law school and there had zero issues, zero. And they're only been out of school for a year. Okay. So if I'm an employer and I look at this, I'm thinking this person probably, maybe this particular, look at the sophisticated, by the way, punctuation, like they're ending with a colon, they're ending this with a colon, they're ending this with a colon. It's very interesting how well done this is for a young person. And this is not something a resume coach would have done for them. So I just want to make sure everyone sees this. Like this is the difference between a good resume and a bad. And this is, by the way, when attorneys go to big law schools and they get jobs at big important firms, this is exactly how they're trained to do their job. They're trained to make sure things are come out because this is what big companies are paying for. Now, you don't learn this in law school. You learn this working for big firms, but everyone should be doing it. There's all these problems here but not a lot. Someone would probably would have a much more difficult time finding these errors, but I'm just want everyone to see that there are errors. And if you're making those, it will show up. And if the employer is hiring you and has a lot of choices, it's going to be important to them to try to hire people that are good. Okay, so this is a summary. So no one needs a summary. Now, someone may put in the questions at some point today, and I will look at them, but they may put something in sometimes there's exceptions that I don't catch for summaries. But these summaries, they tell the reader, hey, I don't expect you to understand who I am and what I do. I've put it down in my experience, but I really need to summarize this for you because if I don't, you won't know what any of this means. You don't have the intelligence to know what you're looking for. So I have to summarize this for you. And when I do summarize it, you're going to be impressed and everything else will make sense. Also, because I know you're taking my resume and putting it in an applicant tracking system, I'm going to need to give you a bunch of titles of what I am. So when you do those searches, you find me and I come out on top and I look like the best person for the job. So I need to put those keywords in. And I'm going to put in other keywords down here to make sure that I catch your applicant tracking system because I don't think you're smart enough to do anything with my resume other than find it. And if it matches the keywords, will be my qualifications, you're going to hire me. None of this makes any sense. So then they say corporate generalist, doing all these different things. So it's very difficult, by the way, to get a job in a law firm if you're doing many different things. Now, this very good resume, by the way, probably for an in-house job. That's what you have worked. But all of these are achievements, added value, trusted consultants, legal generalist, 20 years of experience, as if they can't deduce that from your resume. So a lot of times these resumes, what kind of happens, and I'm not trying to scare anybody, and I don't know who this person is, or we change dates and everything, but when you get to the end of your career and you're getting older, and this is something that you may remember when I say it later to you, but when you get older, it becomes much harder to get jobs. Companies, typically in law firms, you don't have business, want to push you out. So they send you off to these resume companies and things. They're called outplacement companies that are set up and they keep you occupied about your fear that you're losing your job by helping you with the resume. And this is the kind of stuff that they do. And it happens to everyone. It's sad, but they take their resumes and make them into this. No, not always. I'm not saying that it happened with this person. Again, this is something that sounds very mean. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just trying to show what you need to do to get hired in a law firm. I don't care about in-house. Maybe this is perfect for in-house. Now, this is actually very interesting. So this person right now, because I remember seeing this resume, has transitioned from an in-house job incredibly to a top law firm. This is something that I can't even remember seeing in history. I'm sure it's happened before, but is transferred into a freaking law firm, a good one, doing as senior counsel, doing employment law, which is, hell yeah, this is a really good resume for that reason. I don't know how that happened. I don't know why it happened, but this is very good. So this is very good. So this person right now is working in New York City at a top employment firm as an employment counselor. They're doing arbitration, and this is very good. So now we have to look at this resume and say, it's been over a year. So this person actually may be employable doing that. What do we do to make this person look like they're employable in a law firm? The only way we do it is we make them, to the extent we can, look as good as we can to a law firm. And the only way we make them look good to a law firm is by emphasizing to the extent that we can of what they're doing now. That's really all we can do. Because if we talk about all this other stuff, it's going to confuse law firms. They're going to think that that's all they do. So I think that you have to take this out. You have to take this out. So you do what you do here, and this is what everyone should be doing. You leave all this out. So this is all you have. This is great, by the way. Employment counsel, like vice president on employment, you would just say employment issues, right? So unemployment issues. So that's all you have to say, because you have to make the person look like this person's a rock star employment attorney, right? Issues. So that would be it. And this wouldn't be capitalized primarily on, now I'm talking about working in a law firm. So this comes off. This is, by the way, this is just completely confusing to a law firm. Why would a law firm hire a generalist? Their clients pay for a specific type of person. Because so then this person goes in, so December 22 and then December 1997. Okay, that's great. So that's like a 25-year run as a employment attorney, if you look at it this way. And that's great. And now they transition to a law firm and they're in year 26. And that's it. So that other professional experience. Okay, so this person's not putting down the years that they've worked. So people do this when they're older, and which is okay. But yeah, so this is the thing that people do when they get older. And because they're saying, hey, I'm old, you're going to discriminate against me. So you would and you don't even need to say membership. You just need to say New York Bar or whatever. That's fine. So let's talk about this. So everyone that's older has to decide what's going to make them look the best. So I'm not going to make any statements about saying you're older or whatever, but here you're just drawing attention to the fact you're older. So you can, you may want to list it, but you have to decide what is too old. Is it too old for Biden to run a president at the age of 80 plus? And same thing with Trump. Do you think if they had a resume that they were putting forth before their constituents that everyone knows their age anyway? I would think people will like you had a lot of experience. I would corporate associate, these are two good firms. I think that's probably okay to leave that on there, but we do that. So let's just talk about, again, let me find this person's resume, and I'll just show everyone the jobs there would be for this person. So if this resume is cleaned up, then let me just find this resume. I'll find this person's resume, and then I'll show everyone what would happen to this person if the resume was fixed. Sorry, I'm looking for their name. And the reason I'm doing this is because I changed everyone's name. So I don't want anybody's confidentiality. Okay, so cleaning up this, and again, this is not where the person's working. If we call this person a employment attorney, and we have all these areas where they're interested in, so we call them a employment attorney. So we say, and they're basically, anyway, I'm not going to get too far into this person I'm sure is watching, but they would say that you would probably want to say employment law general, employment defense. You might, I don't know if you have that, but you probably want to do that. And then you would say employment management, compliance, and counseling, which is most of what you do. So you would put that down, and then you would go in to look at all the matching experience, which is going to be a lot harder for this particular person. But there's still, here's a bunch of jobs where they're looking, and these are actually 1 to 3, 1 to 3. Yeah. So a lot of these are looking for junior people. So that's not going to help you very much. That there's discrimination from BCG against senior people. It's just that the market just doesn't really have an interest. They want younger people, and they want what they want. And so that's what you have to work with. So the only way, by the way, someone like the search can get a position is if they apply mostly that don't even have openings. And this is what we would do with this person. We make lots of placements like this each year, and this is what you would need to do. So then you go, see if you all jobs, take a quick look here under the hood and see what we have. So there's all these jobs. Some of them are going to be for senior people. Let's see here, minimum of 3 years, they could apply there. They 1 to 3, top 5+ years. So you can see there's a bunch of places for them that they can apply to. 4 to 8, there's a senior position. Here's a job order from this firm seeking someone with 8+ years. There's lots of jobs. There's plenty of jobs. So those need to be put in there as well. Then you go and you look at all jobs for this person. Same thing. There's only that. Then you go and look at recommended firms. I'm just showing you how this would work. And you have 182 places that the person could apply to. These are firms that are recommended. They're recommended because they're boutiques. They're good. They're on these different lists. There might be firms that interview people, firms that place their people, just various sort of things. But that's 182 places that I would apply the person to. They probably would think I was crazy and not want to work with BCG anymore, but that's what I would have to do to get the person a job. And then you can also do all these other kind of searches. So you can do searches and look at this. The person, for whatever reason, is not interested in New York, but you still could go do searches for firms that are just in the radius of where the person is right now. And there's 361 places to apply. So guys and girls, and these are firm points, meaning this firm would probably be very likely to be interested in this person, right? So you sort these by points and you can see the ones, and this is just an algorithm that runs. You can see so there's literally, we're probably like just getting started. There's 500 places this person should be applying to. Then you get into, if you look at let's look at Albany. See what's going on there. Yeah. So then you've got 109 places just in Albany that they can apply to that have interviewed people similar to them. So this is what it happens when you have a good resume is you can get your marketable all these different places. Now, this is what I do for a living. So I'm not saying I expect anyone here to understand all this, but the point is that there's a huge market for you if you do this sort of stuff. Okay. So this resume, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, but I don't even know what the heck's wrong with this thing. Why isn't it even loading? Oh, I see. Okay. Open Grambling. I'm just going to show this particular person and everyone here what is wrong with this particular resume. So let me see. No idea why Grambling is not opening. Okay, but we'll talk about it. So this is an example, and let me just try one more thing here, because I'm not really sure what is happening, why I can't open this. It's wrong there. Okay, but I just want to show everyone, this is a mistake that lots of people make on their resumes. There we go. So you can see here that there's 101 issues on this person's resume. 101. This resume is a mess. No one in their right mind, and every foreign attorney should do this. Look at this. They're using words that aren't even used in the American vocabulary. Whilst. All these errors. So anybody, because I know a lot of people from other countries want to come to the United States and work, but you have to show that you can write, right? You can't, without all these different things, like you can't just have these hundreds of mistakes in your resume. This doesn't work. No, come on. This person, if they want to get a job in the United States, needs to study the U.S. rules of putting together a resume and what you need to do. They need to use U.S. grammar, not foreign grammar. They can't say specialize with an S. And so I'm just wanting everyone to see this, because what happens is every year, thousands, if not tens of thousands of people come to the U.S. They get LLM programs. They spend $70,000 to $100,000 hoping that they're going to get jobs in the U.S. And the schools will certainly, different schools do different things. A lot of them will take your money and not talk to you about your resume. So I'm doing this for everyone right now, showing why this person will never get a job in the United States. There's too many errors. They're doing all of these different things. They're doing pre-action, high court, litigation, mediation, bankruptcy, 15 different practice areas. You don't want to talk about that. Now, this resume, by the way, may not be savable. The last 3 were. This one may not. No one wants to hear about a PhD. And I don't know why nothing's happened to this person during these days, but no one wants to hear about a PhD. Now, you can put it on there if you want, but PhDs make it look like you're what do you call it? Like you're academic. And so you don't want that. So all these schools and things, all this, the high school you went to in Granada, the English literature papers you wrote, the percentage you got in exams, which, by the way, 71% in the US is a C minus, 73 is a C. And just to give you an indication, C is pretty much the lowest grade people get. They occasionally give out Ds, and that's it. The graduation is in 2017, I see that. So the person should put all this at the end of the resume. So this would be acted and all that sort of stuff. All of this, I don't know why in the world anybody would read this. 1 or 2 lines. Sorry, I'm just getting exhausted looking at this. Just look at this. Like, who in the right mind is going to have the time to read all this? You wouldn't. Would you read all this? Would you think that 1 or 2 of these little things that the person has done are of any consequence? I don't know what to say. So that's that. And then you don't say references are available on request. So this person basically needs to go through my rules and look at them. And then once they do that and they fix all these things, they need to figure, you can't have all these links to all these high schools and community college. Like, no one cares about them. No. Why? You're applying to be a lawyer, not talk about some test you took, preparatory studies. No one knows what any of this means. So this is the problem with this resume. Is how could you postgraduate whilst working full time? No one, you just have to understand, anybody that's got a resume anywhere near this would go at the bottom. It has to go through my rules and watch these videos and watch the replays. And I'm apologize, by the way, for wasting U.S. attorneys' time on this, but this stuff needs to be fixed. So let's go to resume. Okay, so this is another, just real quick, another foreign resume. It's the same thing here. But what I want you to see in this particular resume is this resume, I'm just make it a little larger here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this resume, is much better. The person is talking about this stuff at the top. At the same time, this is actually a better introduction to it, but this also should come off. What's happening, by the way, with this resume compared to the last one that we saw is you can see how much better the formatting is, how much more the person's mind looks like it's sticking in one direction as opposed to going in 15 different directions. And then pretty much also the term sheets, finance documents, cooperation, DIA, banks, human, you wouldn't want this. This is crazy. But negotiate the sign of relevant income. A lot of this stuff is just not necessary, but it's not what I wanted to show you here is this is all about different types of corporate law, and it's very focused. It's not talking about 15 different things. This is also pretty focused. It's not talking about 15 different things. And this is also pretty much focused on not talking about 15 different things. And then this is focused on not talking about 15 different things. These documents, the thing, aviation finance, derivatives, negotiation skills, inspirational, leading with sense. Some of this stuff isn't really necessary, but this shows the person likes to do this, which is cool. And then they show, you don't need to show people, come on, that you know how to use PowerPoint. That's insane. But I just want you to see that this is a much better resume as a foreign resume because at least it's talking about in one direction. The only thing I would say with this particular resume, I think you can take all of this off and then you can create what's called a transaction sheet. So you just have your titles and then you create transaction sheet. And this is what a lot of corporate attorneys should be doing, transaction sheet. And then you list your transactions and then make them focused on banking or whatever, and just list them. And then try to get your practice area defined and make sure, that you're doing something that looks consistent. That would be it. So this particular resume, this person's name. The only thing I would say is I'm not going to go through and spend any time in the database in a particular resume, but because it's a foreign resume, I don't want to waste everyone's time. But the idea would be with this banking experience, they should be able to find, if you were just doing banking, for example, it shouldn't be that difficult for that person. And then I just look at one thing here. So it's interesting positions, but they're not going to get a position in the US, but they might get a position with a US law firm in the country they're going for, or they might get a position in a company doing this type of work. They make those changes. I spent a lot of time in this, but I just want everyone to understand that this is a drastically improved foreign resume. With the only thing is that when you're doing these, when you're listing a bunch of experience, like you're doing financial institutional experience, which is cool, then you're getting, well, if you want to look at something, that's the resume, then you are getting much closer to where you should be when you do that. If you search for, let me just see, give me some name. Okay, this person's name is not, we don't have them, it's good. It's perfectly fine. But yeah, that's how it would handle that, is you would basically drill down to one of the practice areas that is very focused. So you would do a focused practice area search. So I just want to show you the way a resume needs to be focused. This person, for example, the one we just looked at, is doing a form of finance and banking. So you could see here, you would, if you were to go and look at that finance banking very closely, and then you were to do, let me just take out this employment related stuff, employment law in general. We take out that. So we do finance banking for this particular candidate. Then you wanted to look at jobs for them. So you're in the US. Once all that was classified, or you would start getting lots of positions, or just, and these are just in Connecticut that would match this person. Then you would also have lots of recommended firms and so forth, because a resume would be much more focused. So these are all firms that did that kind of work. And then you would also be able to search for lots of other opportunities. So a focused resume is really the whole name of the game. And if you start talking about doing employment and all this other stuff, you did banking, finance, and there you got it. So you're a good candidate. Resume 5, that's the point here. This is resume 5. So I'll get to, a lot of these will go much quicker because we're going to go through them now in a lot faster now that we have this. I'm going to take a quick break just for a minute or two, just to grab soda. And then when I come back, we'll look at this resume, but I will just be like literally probably a minute and a half, and then I'll come back and we'll start reviewing this particular resume. All right, so let's get back to the next resume here. Okay, so this is the next resume. So this person actually has redacted everything for us. Unfortunately, let me see, because we don't have this person's name. Maybe we'll be able to, or unable to do a screen share of jobs. So this person is doing something that's very common now these days. Everyone has figured out in the legal market that there's a lot of demand for privacy attorneys, and has gone and made their resume just like this. I did want to share something while we're on the call, because I think that this is, let me just see here, a very important thing to discuss, which is right now, what are the most marketable practice areas? What are the most, let me just see how I do this here. Best way of doing this. Let me stop the share, but I do want to go over something with everyone that's very important. I'm stopping the share because I'm going to pull up a document. I don't want to get everybody's private information. Okay. So I'm going to open a new screen here. Okay. So something that's important for everyone to understand is how marketable are different practice areas. What do you do to get jobs? Now, this particular document here is still getting edited. I don't know why it's on a live site, but this shows you different practice areas and how marketable they are around the country right now. And this is an example of all of the people that we've submitted over the past year. So we represented, for example, 31 candidates in data privacy litigation, and a lot of them got jobs. So these are just so people can understand, like, these are the people that get the most jobs. Like, this is when we work with people, these are the highest percentages, which is interesting. This particular document, let me see if I can put it in the chat or something. Let me just see here. I guess I can't. But this is the State of the Market Report, BCG 2024. So you should be able to find it online or on our website. And this is an example of what's happened over the past year. We represented over 25,000 candidates, applying to 25,000 law firms. And those were over 400,000 applications. So this is an example of what happened. So you should understand, if you're a law student, if you're a practicing attorney, what does this data mean? It means these are the firms that you should be, or where you should be trying to get a job. If you want to do products liability, or you do dirt law, and then all that is very interesting. So you scroll down, and where's data privacy on this list? Is that, how is that? This is for all firms. Then you have firms, these are for candidates working in firms where they're working for consumers with a little bit of budgets. And then these are mid-sized firms. So just understanding a lot of these practice areas that people may not think are that prestigious, which is like elder law and medical malpractice defense, are actually where people are getting the most jobs. So it's interesting. But when you start looking at where the most interviews and stuff are, it's at the big firms, risk and executive compensation, healthcare, and all this sort of thing. So I just really recommend, if you're thinking about a practice area or you're wondering how do you portray your resume. So sometimes you'll have an estate planning attorney that will decide they want to list estate planning, but then also decide, hey, it's a great idea to talk about how I've done some international arbitration. That's not a very marketable practice area, right? So you have to go through and understand this information. So I highly recommend reading this report and studying it based on how you want to look. Because what people are essentially doing when they talk about data privacy, so let's see if we can find that on their resume, data. When people are talking about data privacy, they're saying, I really want to do data privacy because I think it's really marketable. Okay, so let's go here. So we started at the top. These are all the firms that we sent people to over the past year. And you go down here, the person's saying, I think data privacy is really marketable, right? And here you go. Transactional data privacy. We represented 160 candidates applying to 3,814 firms. And it was one of the lowest conversions of interviews to submissions, right? So that's pretty interesting, right? So you think everyone thinks they heard data privacy. Yeah, it was a big deal maybe 2 or 3 years ago when there was no one out there, but everyone decided to pay this company to get their certifications or whatever it is. And now everyone's applying for these jobs. So you need to be really careful about what you do on your resume and realize that it has consequences. This is literally near the bottom of, and we have a pretty good sense of this because it looks like we represented 160 people trying to do it. And yet this is one of the lowest practice areas. So I really want people to go to this report and take a look at your practice areas and what's happening. It's also broken down by geographic areas. But if you're in a firm that does the insurance defense or representing individuals or small firms and where you're doing firms work representing individual people most of the time, as opposed to other things, these are who are the most marketable. Medical malpractice is the most marketable. So is professional liability defense. So is workers' compensation. If you're working at those types of firms. And if you're working at the biggest firms, which I guess would be these firms, then whatever reason, IP patent mechanical is the most marketable. So understanding what's marketable and why you're doing things is very important. And you need to make sure that you understand it. So this person now is talking about, hey, I'm a data privacy person in this unmarketable practice area. Look at me. That's what they're saying. And they're like, isn't this great that I'm data privacy? And so that's fine. You can do that. But again, this is one of the least marketable practice areas that there are. Now, I don't know anything, by the way, about in-house marketability. It could be very marketable in-house. I don't know. But I do know with law firms, this resume is not going to get very far. So because first of all, they're going to be more interested in someone that's working in a big firm, learning about data privacy and on their own. But people do this all the time. People want to do data privacy so much that they do this. I'm not going to get too far into these descriptions of what the person does because data privacy is such a new field. I don't know that employers know exactly what a data privacy attorney does. So in this particular case, if the person was doing this with certain practice areas, I probably wouldn't be that interested in it. But yeah, it's okay to say most of this. I would leave it on because I don't even really understand what data privacy attorneys do. I have general understanding, but I would leave this stuff on. So I would leave most of this stuff on just because it makes it look like the person does nothing but one thing. And they would do only one thing since the dawn of this data privacy practice area. So that's fine. You would write that down. You might want to, how much business did you do? Or like, where did you get these clients and so forth? That's good. Now, this is private practice. Small firm was laid off after 11 years. That's not something you'd want to say, but you probably don't want to put that. I think saying you manage case deadlines with critical to this is something that all attorneys do. I would just say private practice. And then I would probably, I'm just looking at this here. I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but it sounds like this person was doing insurance defense, which is perfectly fine. So I'm doing that. It looks like insurance defense, firm no longer exists. Fine. So you did that. So I would just say firm dissolve, work, litigation, primarily. I would just say litigation firm, something like manage litigation firm. And then I would put here, private practice dissolve, firm dissolve, something like that. Litigation firm specialized in liability defense. So you don't have to say it's insurance defense. You just have to say liability defense, insurance defense, but that's fine. You say that. And then now what it looks like is that you do that. By the way, if this person had come to me in January 2018, they would not have had to open their own practice. They would have been able to market themselves as an insurance defense attorney, and their career would just be humming along with no problem. The reason this is a big no-no is because what's happening to this person is they have 11 years of their life dedicated to one practice area. They've become an expert. They've spent thousands of hours, over 10,000 hours or 20,000 hours doing one thing. And yet they walked away from all that experience and knowledge to negotiate and review DPA and vendor contracts. That's crazy, guys. If you have a lot of experience doing one thing, then you're really, I guess it's okay to do a career swap. This was 5 years ago, but you need to be very careful about doing that. If this person makes the resume look like that they are a privacy attorney and then that their litigation experience is applicable to having been a privacy attorney, then that's great. There's nothing wrong with any of that. And all of these things about privacy are very good. So I like this resume with all this. I think, that this is great. This is great. So it's actually not a bad resume. If you fix all this. Now, I don't know how marketable this person is going to be to a law firm with this, but I think they're probably in the running for a lot of in-house jobs. And if they have big clients, they might be marketable to them as well. So this resume can actually be fixed. There's a lot of very good things about it. Let me just see here. I don't know. We'll take a look at Grammarly real quick, but I'm pretty positive that it's probably okay. Okay. Yeah. So there's that resume. And the only other thing I would say, I don't have this person's name. So let me just see here. No. Okay. I don't have this person's name, so I can't look at data privacy stuff, but I can pull something up here. Let me just see here. Oh, okay. Give me 1 second here. Sorry. I'm admin in search. Oh, hold on. Sorry, I got to go around here. Fix this. Let me see. Harrison. Give me 1 second to pull the right page for this, the demo account. All of my accounts today are open on demos. So I'm having a hard time. All of these they're not real people. It's a demo thing that's, right. I don't want to spend too much time on this resume, but I do want people to get a sense of the marketability of a resume once you do certain things. So let me just see here. So sure. Then we have, sorry, I'm trying to pull the right thing. And it's important, by the way, when you're looking at your resume, you should go into BCG because we find all the law firm jobs we possibly can. And we go into BCG and we will research those resumes. And let me see here. I can do advice client information. Let me just do one other search here. I'm just going to take a resume that we've already viewed. So I'm going to take this resume hypothetically, and I'm going to say that this person will make this person we've already reviewed, we'll make them data privacy, and we'll put them also in, just hypothetically, Los Angeles. I just want people to get a sense of the marketability of these different practice areas. So what you should be doing when you get different candidates is you should be, give me 1 second here. You should be, when you're in different practice areas, is you should be going into the BCG database on the public page, or if you're a candidate, you can search things there. And what you should be doing is you should be searching for data privacy. So this person looks like data privacy litigation. That's why we made them a litigation, their first firm, and then data privacy transactional. So you do that, and then you go view jobs and matches candidate. These are huge geographic areas. Like you're looking at all of California. So just to give you a sense of how few jobs there are, just looking at Los Angeles, let's look at San Francisco, where you would think you would have the most in the world, because isn't everything about those companies that are like there's all these tech companies and things in San Francisco. So you go to San Francisco and sure enough, you get a lot, right? So there's quite a few jobs there. You'd have to be embedded in there, but these are all jobs. So that's actually pretty good. But if you try to view jobs based on experience, you're going to get even fewer. So if you look at jobs requiring, say, 5+ years of experience, and say this candidate is obviously got 5+ years, then you're getting SOL, right? You're not getting a lot of jobs. That's the problem. Person senior, so then you have to go and do things like I showed you earlier, you'd have to go and or is this person, and search for location, search for jobs, and apply to places that are just in that do that as a practice area. So that would be your next step. That I hope that helps to show what you should do. So this person can actually get jobs, probably in-house, but if they apply to a lot of firms like this that don't have those practice areas, and suggest that they could help start one, because, and what's interesting too is how you position yourself. So this person could apply to all these law firms that I'm giving you, or to law firms that don't even have the practice area, and say, I have experience running my own business, but I don't, and representing people doing data privacy. Unfortunately, I don't have the support of a law firm to do it, but I've still managed to generate all these clients. If I was working in your firm, I believe that I would have support and be able to bring in larger clients and help you develop a lucrative practice. That would be great. So that would be what this person should do. And they could probably get lots of interest from firms, but they'd have to do that first before they did that. Okay, so let me show what resume I'm on now. I'm on resume 6. Is this resume 6? Resume 6. Let me go to resume 6. Going through all these resumes. I have them 2, 5, 7. Resume 7. So I'm just going through all these. 9, 8, organizing these resumes. I'm not trying to bore people here. 10, 9, 10. Okay. And then, so I'm working with these resumes organized, and I'll have more addition of these. This is a lot of resumes. June 6. And by the way, in terms of all the webinars that I do, I think this is the most personal and can make the most immediate impact on your career and life. As you're watching this, you have the time set aside to watch it. Either you're spending time fixing this, you're seeing things in your resume, you're seeing how marketable you can become if you fix those things, you're seeing why it's important to have a focused resume, you're learning all these things. And this is very helpful to your life. I mean, because you can turn it around. Your whole resume is what's going to get you jobs, and understanding your practice area is what's going to get you jobs. So just very important stuff. So let me see the next resume I have here. Resume 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so what I need to do is I'm going to open, if you give me just 1 second, I have to open my email and download the new resumes. Let me get this. I'm going to close the resumes I've done. Just give me 1 second. This is just a little housekeeping thing to organize all these resumes. Okay, so now I've got 7, 8, 9, because I'm opening all the other resumes. Is what I'm doing right now. By the way, a shout out to the guy that's helping with this, Jared, because there's been a lot of work. We've taken all the firms out and modified all the resumes, and we had to enter them into a database so we could search them. This has been a big project, and we had a lot of it that wasn't done properly by some of my staff in another office. And so we had to go back and put together a lot of the stuff right away, first thing this morning here. So we got it done literally just like 1 minute before this started. Okay, let's see. So I'm going to go to now resume 7. Let me make sure I open that up. And the nice thing about what we're doing today is that everyone's resume is actually going to get reviewed, because it may not be, every issue of every resume is going to get reviewed. Okay, so this is another resume here, the next one. And by the way, the resumes I'm sharing with you, most of them are resumes of people that, if they fix these things, could get a job in a law firm. Okay, so here's a very short resume, and this is actually, there's a lot of things that are right here. This person went to in law school. I'm not going to open the Grammarly on this, but I would hope that you can see it's actually a much better resume now. Okay, so actually, anyway, this is not get too hard. Okay, so this person just says professional experience. What I would recommend is people are smart enough to know the difference between professional and non-professional. So no one needs to say professional experience. This person calls himself an associate court attorney and doing all these things. They don't, you need to say it's the 3rd largest court in the state. That's just not necessary. And then this is all fine. I don't really have a problem with it, what the person's doing here with this description, because I wouldn't know what a associate court attorney does. Then the person talks about how they were an associate person doing all these things. I guess it's probably okay to leave this on, because this person, by the way, if they're trying to get a job in a law firm, it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible. It can, but it'd be a small law firm, because they've been doing the same job for 16 years. And so why would a law firm want to hire someone that's been doing the same, working for the government for 16 years. But it could try, certainly, because they've done all these different things and they did that. And then something being a certified law student, a practitioner in health law, I don't think there's any sense whatsoever of putting that on your resume, because it just doesn't help anybody. You were doing it as as a law student. It's meaningless, right? Because you've been out of law school for so long that, when was this, 2003? What is this one, 2000? Yeah, it's crazy. You don't need to put in, that you had a job while you're in law school. You can put the dates, but you don't need to really put anything else other than that. You don't say you were handpicked. And it's crazy. No, you don't say that. So that's all you need there. And then you don't need to say you got a health law certificate unless you want to do health law, but there's nothing on your resume other than being part of the health law clinic. There's nothing in your resume that says anything about health law, because you want to, like, when someone looks at your resume, you want them to do what's called get a scent of the issues that you're covering. So what that means is, if you want to be a litigation attorney, then everything on your resume needs to talk about resumes of litigation. You don't want to talk about health law. Like, you need to dumb that down, or not list it at all. Because people are thinking, if this person did this for 2 years, they're doing this and they're doing this, didn't they always want to be a health law attorney? It's confusing people. I like what this person did here, listing their education at the end. That's something, obviously, sometimes people list the front, so that's something that should have been done. And then you don't even need to say maybe, you can do that. And then this person says honors, Saprin Fellowship, distinguished, excellent code of words, Cerner to award. None of these are anything that are really that necessary, because they're not, there's nothing that significant about them. If it was like you're in the top 10% or 5% of your class, you might want to list them, but listing things that don't really mean anything is something that everyone needs to get out of. A lot of times people have this game that they play. They say, oh, I got this little thing, I better write it down. Or I got this little thing, you better write down. Or I got this new responsibility, I better write that down. No, you don't need to. You give people less, because if you emphasize things that aren't exceptional, then you look like you're not exceptional. If you allow yourself to have things on your resume that are exceptional only, and then you don't say anything if it's not exceptional, then you allow people to meet you and think, wow, this person's exceptional. You allow them to reach those kind of conclusions, but you don't have to say that stuff. Now, a lot of times you might want to write JD instead of taking up space. It's up to you. I don't think you need to talk about how you got a minor in something. No. But if you want, you can, but everyone does stuff. National Dean's List and Dean's List. Again, when you say things like honors, like, you're basically telling people what an honor is. And you would just basically list what that is. You need to take that off. And then I guess you can list the stuff. Probably okay. Judicial Court Employees Association, that's fine. Former Thurgood Marshall trial competition coach. No, you don't need to list you were a coach in a trial competition. It's not necessary. Secretary, that's fine. Librarian, I don't think saying you're a librarian, the Daughters of the American Revolution, I don't even know what that is, but I don't think it's a real order. And then you would obviously put dates and that sort of thing. Yeah. All in all, it's not a bad resume. I think this particular person, let me see if I have their name. I do. I'll go into the database and show you what I would look for them. Let's see. Give me 1 second. I have to cross-reference all these names. Because I don't want to. For some reason, I don't think I have the right name. So I'm missing this person's name. But the idea with this particular person would be that what you would do is this person would be able to search for litigation jobs. So it really wouldn't be too much of an issue for this person to be able to get a job. They would be able to get a job as a litigation attorney. What I would do for this person, I wouldn't be able to represent them because they've been in the government too long. But what they should do is this person could apply to litigation, small firms, up and down, tons of them, solo practitioners and small firms to do landlord-tenant, family law, all this sort of stuff. And this person should have, if they apply to enough places with smaller firms and things and solo practitioners and other people that may need help with this sort of stuff, they should be able to probably get a position. I don't know that this person would want to. They probably have a pretty good position at where they're at, but with pensions and stuff like that, but that would be up to them. But this resume is definitely savable, and that person can definitely get jobs. Let me see, 10, 9, or 8. I'm just looking to make sure I have the right resume. Sorry to tell these. Give me 1 second. It's hard getting mixing up all these resumes. Oops, resume 7. We got that one. Give me 1 second. I want to make sure I pull up the right resume here. Okay, so now we've got resume 8. Okay, so this particular resume. So this person is working as it's a new attorney, admitted December of 2022. They graduated from law school in May of 2022. It's actually pretty cool. It's very difficult to pass the California bar in your first attempt. So they did pass the bar. So that's great. They passed the bar and they're in good shape. Let me just saving the document. Sorry. Okay, so just again to show this person, I'm going to save the document. Oh, I don't even know what I'm doing here. Oh my God. Okay, well, open Gravely. Okay, so here there's 19 issues, missing commas, incompleted sentences, articles, incorrect articles used, incomplete sentences, all that sort of stuff. Now, what I would say is, and people have brought this up on these calls before, is that sometimes Grammarly isn't completely right. That's fine. I'm not saying that it's 100%, but you should always review it to make sure that's done. So listing your bar admission at the top is not necessarily important. You would probably list it at the bottom. It's presumed you have been admitted. And you can just put the date if you want, because it does show you passed on the first attempt. But normally you would just put bar admission like this, California. That's it. That's what most people do. Now, all these sorts of things, knowing how to use skills, Spanish, yeah, that could be useful. Clio, InfoEd, IETA, Solidify, Salesforce, SlidePoint. Now, in this particular case, I have no idea what these things are. And they might be very good. I don't know. But if these are very common things, and this gives you a sense of how long I've been, I know what Salesforce is, and I know what SharePoint, but these may be okay. But if they're not very complex, I don't think you need to list that. So this person's experience for basically 1 year, they've been working for a university doing all of these things with labor and employment, and that's good. So this person is doing labor and employment things. They've listed a lot of different things, which is okay, and that's good. So once this person, just so you understand, once this person has nothing but was doing labor and employment stuff, this is what the reader of the resume wants to see. So reader of the resume is saying to themselves, okay, here we've got a labor and employment attorney. What does that mean to us? And that means that we want to see that this person is always been interested in labor and employment, that they're going to be a good labor and employment attorney, that if we hire them, they're going to take their experience and grow into something else. So you need to do that. This person now says they were an IP graduate assistant in their school from July to July 2022. So let's see what's going on here. So the person went to we changed these schools. The person right now does labor and employment. So I want to make sure we understand that does labor and employment, but then they spent an entire year while they were in law school or after doing patent related work, right? So that's not good. That basically shows that they wanted to do something else. And then so that's scary for the employer, right? And then they've got all these things. They got the highest grade in intellectual property law. You don't want to talk about intellectual property law, by the way, unless you have a degree in electrical engineering or something, or mathematics or computer science, because the only people that become good intellectual property law attorneys outside of trademark attorneys are people with scientific backgrounds and go to the patent bar. You're never going to be a patent law attorney because you haven't taken the requisite courses to do that as an undergraduate. So why would you tout something that you can't do? That's scary. No, you don't want to do that. All these things, international law, business, charters, advocacy. No, you don't do that. You don't want to take people on a wrong thing. Now, Dean's List all semesters is good. Being a symposium editor of a paper or a symposium, probably not necessary. MOOC competition, that's fine. But you take this stuff off, and this is everyone's business with their resume, because ostensibly this person wants to get a job, right? And they want to move from an in-house job working for a university to a law firm. Now I want everyone to understand what's going on here, because every resume does this to one extent or another. So I'm going to take this out, but I want to show you basically the mistake that everyone makes in their resume. And this is something that's huge. So very important. So someone working as a, let's say, as a insurance defense attorney, well, let's say litigation, commercial litigation, 2 year, 1 year. Okay. So this is a very important example. So current job, litigation. Okay. Then you say, that's good. So happy face. Past. This is how the employer is looking at it. Past job. One, health law, a job in law school, health law, and activities in law school, papers, groups, health law. This is what people do. Or it could be anything. It could be past job one was health law, next job is IP litigation or something. What happens when a law firm looks at this is they say, hey, we have an opening right now for a commercial litigation attorney. This person does it. But then they look at this and they're like, wait a minute. No, this person really wants to be a healthcare attorney. So that's not a good bet for us hiring that person, because that person is going to go do something else. And they're going to want to do something else. In this particular candidate's case, that we're looking at this resume, this is employment, right? So this is employment, the current, and it looks pretty good, right? It's fine, it's in-house, and then this is IP law, not even IP law, but why? Because never going to be a patent attorney. So what's the point of saying you do IP? So I want everyone to understand how messed up the legal education system is. So there are LLMs in P law that you can get from schools all over the country that will take your $70,000 and teach you some classes about IP, but you will never be able to take the patent bar if you don't have a strong scientific or mathematical or background, never be able to take it, but they'll happily award you this degree. But all patent lawyer or a good decent firm, all IP firms and patent law firms, you need to have a scientific background to do it. You can certainly do different types of IP, but it's going to hold you back. So then this person, and I want everyone to understand this example because every resume that I see almost does this. Then the person's job in law school was IP law. Then this person's activities, all about IP law. So why would any employer take a risk on hiring someone that's only interested in IP law? Because the second you dangle an IP job in front of them, they're going to walk away from employment and go do IP because somewhere along the line, someone has told them being IP is good or they're interested in it. But yeah, this poor person, let's just take a look. They didn't do anything scientific. The global resource system, what the hell's that? Nothing. So the person is emphasizing something that they're not. So what do you do with that? You dumb it down and make it look and not make people think about something else. That's it. You just dumb it down. You take these experiences and you want people to look at this resume and think, hey, look at this. This is a labor and employment attorney. Is it important to say that you were doing all this? Honestly, manage USPTO office actions? No, this is pretty scary. I don't even know that you want to put that you were doing that in law school. I'm sorry, but if you put that on there, the person's going to think that you're something else. They're going to want a labor attorney. That's what they're looking for when they look at your resume. And when they start seeing all this other stuff, they don't like it. I mean, they don't like it at all. It's like, I don't know how to put it to you, but it's just distracting them. So you can put that in there. You can do whatever you want. But this March to July, state licensed law clerk, this is fine. This looks good. It's all about litigation, doing things that an employment attorney would do related to your practice areas. So that's cool. This is perfectly fine. I just would take all this off because I would just say represent a client. So now it starts making it look like you're doing that stuff related to that. Managed cases, you put that down there. And then this person starts looking like they're doing litigation related stuff, right? And that's good. It's January 2021. And so they have multiple jobs at the same time. And I don't know how relevant any of this is. Animal law, aquatic animal law, probably don't want to put that on there. It's just leading people in a different direction. So what am I saying here? I'm telling you that this particular resume is actually very good, but the resume needs to talk about labor. It needs to not make people think about other stuff, because if people see other stuff, all that's saying is like, hey, I'm this, but I really want to do this, I really want to do this. And unfortunately, if I was going to market this person, they would have to be doing labor and employment. And then all this stuff starts making sense, but you have to take this out of the founder of the Intellectual Property Association. and this person's interested in intellectual property, I would, Jesus, look at that. I would very carefully reconsider, because if you want to get a job, no one's going to hire you to do any decent IP job if you don't have a technical background. You could get a job as trademark, you can, but I see nothing about trademarks on this. This person is very marketable if they decide that they want to be a labor and employment attorney. So this is what the resume needs to do. Once the resume is like this, because a person doesn't have a lot of experience, it actually becomes very interesting. So let me just see if I can fix it. Okay, well, I don't, this particular resume. Okay, of course I don't have this resume in there. But this particular resume becomes very marketable. This person, all of a sudden, they're in San Diego, let's take a look, and they passed the California bar, which is awesome, because there's not a lot of people out there that have passed the California bar. So this particular person then suddenly becomes a great candidate for labor and employment. I want to show you something else too. I want to show you what's interesting. I know we were looking at the state of the market report. So I just want to show you what happens with that. So if you look for labor, I'm just going to show you how marketable this is, because it's interesting, and everyone should be using this with your practice area. If you look at labor in terms of the market, employment law, labor law, unions, look at that. So it's actually one of the highest ranked practice areas that the person's in. So meaning that they're going to have the freaking best chance of getting a job of anyone, even though they're in-house, because there's hardly anybody doing this labor law stuff. How freaking awesome is that? And now let's keep going. You want to do IP? You want to do IP? You really want to do IP? Come on, let's do some IP. I really want to do IP. Let's see here. So you get down here, I really want to do IP. So even for IP patents, these are people that have taken the patent bar, which you'll never take. It's one of the lowest, right? And then labor and employment litigation is different than labor and employment what you're doing. So I don't want to explain it to you, but you just start getting into all this and you keep going down. So it's important to understand litigation, labor, and employment. Like how high, so that's the next one, sorry. Let me go to here. So look at this one. Small to mid-sized firms, right? Look at this. Labor law, boom. That's number out of 300 practice areas, okay? 300 plus practice areas. You're at the number 4 most marketable freaking practice area there is. And yet you've decided that you want to call yourself an IP attorney. And these are patent counsels, which you'll never get a job. I don't really understand what you're doing, because you need to make yourself look like a labor and employment attorney. Looking at the practice areas that are marketable, labor and employment, I'm just going to say you're doing labor law just for the heck of it. And then we go back and your regions of interest. Let's see, this is California. We'll just select 1, 2, California. So we're Sarah Colis, we'll go view jobs and master candidate, and you get all of these firms that have openings right now. Those are just in California, but most of these candidates, you would also basically be able to apply for jobs also doing just regular employment. So if you start looking at that, professional practice areas, you probably select, this is just to get more jobs in there. You probably select labor and employment, and then, I'm sorry, we had management compliance and counseling, which is a big one that I missed. Then we do employment general. And so I'm trying to show you how many positions there would be for you if you did the right practice, if you just made yourself look like a labor and employment attorney. And you've got all of these, and you just go on for pages and pages. This is just in California. Look how much work this is. How many matches do we get? It's crazy, right? There's just so many freaking jobs for this person. Now, they would have to apply probably to smaller firms. They couldn't apply to the largest firms. So if you go to the smaller firms here, you can see that the person, and these are just firms with jobs with openings, right? So these are just jobs with openings. They have all these jobs, and then you have firms that are recommended for this person that can apply to. All I'm saying is you take a resume of someone that there's 1,000 firms, right? So it's so many firms this person could apply to that it's literally, you can see here, it's frozen the search bar because the bar can't even load how many opportunities there are for the person. It's absolutely crazy. I might actually get cut off of this freaking call because it's making my computer work so hard. So all I'm trying to say is that this person, if they were to apply to firms doing labor, they would get a lot of jobs if they didn't decide to push themselves and do a practice area that's not marketable. So look at this BCG State of the Market Report, get a sense and understanding of what's going on there, and do your best to try and make yourself look like that particular type of person. Okay, let's look at the next one. Resume 9, perfect. And look, my computer literally is ready to crash because there were so many jobs for that last person. I literally was having Outlook and stuff could literally not function. Okay, so this person, next one is corporate associate, small law firm, Sacramento, and then a corporate associate, big law firm, okay, big prestigious firm, corporate associate, another big firm, and then some good firms there. Okay, so just so everyone understands, this particular resume is pretty good. So this particular resume is, let's just take a look at Grammarly right here. Okay, you can see here, this is a good attorney. There's not a lot of issues because most of the time when people work at big firms, they catch all this stuff. And this is one of the reasons too, by the way, that working in big firms can change the type of attorney you are, but you can still do all this stuff. Like big firms don't tolerate like a lot of missing commas, incomplete sentences, big errors. These errors, by the way, are not that significant, I don't think. But I would just submit to you that all resumes should be run through this. It's not 100% right. This resume looks like it's pretty good. The experience, let's talk about the experience. So this particular experience is negotiation. Okay, so this is actually interesting. So the person is still working as a corporate associate, but at a small firm. They've moved from two big firms. So they had the first job for 4 years, and they were a summer associate, and they did nothing but they did basically mergers and acquisitions. Then they come up here and they're doing mergers and acquisitions. So I want to show you what's so good about this resume. This is actually, I'm excited about this resume. So this resume, and let's talk about what's going on here. So they're doing something that's, shoot, I got that wrong. They're doing something that's very smart, and I'll tell you why. So what they're, what did I do? I'm sorry, give me a second. And this is this particular lesson that I'm showing you right now is very important. So right here, when they start everything, they talk about mergers and acquisitions, right? And then this is all mergers and acquisition stuff. When they go here, they talk about mergers and acquisitions. So this is all mergers and acquisition stuff. And then they go here and they talk about mergers and acquisitions. So the first line, I mean, this person is on the frickin' ball. The first line of every discussion here is mergers and acquisitions. So someone looks at this frickin' resume and they're like, this is a mergers and acquisitions attorney. This was a mergers and acquisition attorney. This is a mergers and acquisition attorney. Everything the person's showing you, everything they're saying, $3 billion transaction, everything the person's saying is positioning themselves to be a mergers and acquisitions attorney. How freaking awesome is that? There's nothing on this resume that says anything else other than what the person is. Now, maybe they went to a smaller firm because they want to generate clients. Maybe they wanted to work on smaller companies where they could have more involvement. So this person probably has some sort of pitch that they would make. This, by the way, is the best resume that we've looked at all day, by far. It's a great resume, and so much stuff is happening here that's good. The person, by the way, was at the same firm for let's see, 4 years, right? 4 years. Then here was 2. That's okay. And then this is currently, 1, whatever. And it looks like there might have been a gap of unemployment at some point. So maybe this person had a child or something. But this resume is perfectly fine. The person is a mergers and acquisition attorney. Sometimes some of this stuff can come off. There's no reason to leave that on. I just want to show people like just getting a lot of this. Obviously, like people know this, you don't want, oh, by the way, this is not good. So you don't want to act as an attorney liaison committee representative, meet with the executive committee and managing partners regarding associate concerns. That's not something that people want to think about. I'm just saying you have, and this, by the way, these little things are like landmines. The reason these are landmines is because this makes it seem like you're the bad guy and getting all the dirt on the firm, and you're going to come to them and they're not going to like it, and you know how to look for problems, and people don't want that. You can put that on there if you want, but you're pushing yourself into a corner where people are going to think that you're going to find problems there, and you don't want people to think that at all. You got to be very careful. So anytime anyone thinks it's a good idea to put that sort of stuff on there, there's people that come into companies, by the way, and firms that are just completely like pro-employee and and they don't care about the profits. They just think of themselves as adverse to any employer, and they need to get what they can. And no, you just keep that stuff out of your way. You can't do it. And it's just too dangerous, because people are going to look at that and think, oh, this person is sitting around listening to people bitch about their problems and then coming to, I don't want that kind of person working for me. But other than that, this is a pretty awesome resume. It's all, I would say, if they did private companies and private equity firms, but this is all related to mergers and acquisitions. And then look at the education, like how that's laid out. So everything we've seen today, people that go to these like third-tier law schools or whatever are just saying they did all these associations, they did all these things, like all these groups, all these committees, like all this stuff. No one cares. Like, it doesn't matter. You went to Georgetown? Great. That's a well-respected, highly ranked law school. That's awesome. Oh, you got a master's in taxation? That's one of the hardest programs in the world for that. That's great. You don't say, got an A- in tax this, award for such and such. Everything here is stripped down. This is a very good resume, except being on the side of very good resume. Everything on here just talks about, it's so good because, and again, I want everyone to take a long look at this resume, because I want everyone to understand why it's good. It's good because the person went into their first job and stayed there 4 years. They became a specialist. They did one thing. And so they're a mergers and acquisition attorney. Then the same person went to work at another big firm where they stayed for 2 years and did the same thing. So they're that. And now they're doing it at a small firm. They're probably getting even more experience, and they're doing the same thing. Now, there's a little bit of 2016, 2024, 8 years, 3 jobs in 8 years. Not ideal, but it's still okay. It's not the end of the world. So let's go in and find, if we can, let's see, sometimes I'm having a real hard time here matching up these resumes. But in our database, there's going to be a lot of positions for someone that's an M&A attorney. It's just this person is in Sacramento and also in lots of jobs. So this is what everyone should aspire to. This person doesn't say that they were in the top 20% or 30%. They just say they got a degree from there. That's enough. They don't say that they were on the corporate law society. They don't need to say that. They don't need to say what their papers were at Cornell. They don't need to say anything. All they're doing is showing you that they're one thing. Very good. They're brilliant. There's nothing, why would you have other things on there that make people think other things? There's no reason to do that. This is an exceptional resume because it's doing everything that a resume should. It's showing people that the person does one thing, and that's all you need. Very good. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to grab something, and then I will be back to do the next resume. I will leave this up though, just for a second, but great resume. Even to the fact that the person was careful enough to put all this stuff on file, which is funny. All right, so we got that resume. So let's go to the next one, which actually is another one I like a lot. Let's go to this next resume. And make sure I have the resume 1, resume. So there's so many of these. Resume 10. So this person, we'll take a look at this resume. Okay, so let's do a little comparison of the resume that we just looked at, which was resume 9. In this resume. So this resume, we get right into it. This person starts talking about that they were on the Student Bar Association and Deputy Financier of Finance. Meaningless. Intellectual property, semifinalist. Meaningless. So you don't draw attention to the fact that you're a semifinalist. You weren't even a finalist. And this is just intellectual property in the court. So this is not an award. Like this person that went here, the last resume we looked at, they're not listed. They're just telling you where they went to law school. That's all they care about. That's it. I went to law school here. It's good enough, right? It's good enough. So you don't have to, and then if you start drawing attention, so George Washington is a very good law school. I'm sure it's a top 20 law school or something. It's a good law school. Very known, very good attorneys have gone there. I don't have any reason to think that. But this person didn't go to as good of a law school as the person that went to Georgetown. They're both in the same city. And yet they feel the need to list all these things where they were the vice president or the semifinalist, just not quite there in the top position. And that's just not necessary, right? You don't need to draw attention to this stuff. Like, no, I'm not going to tell you that I was second or third place at a top 10 law school. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to say anything because I want you to look at me favorably. You know, I've got this, like I'm on it. Like I'm the best person there is for this. So That's how you want people to look at you. You don't need to say anything about that. Okay, so now this person is talking again about their minor and their major and okay, and that they did chemistry and all this sort of stuff. Let's talk about what's happening here with this resume. So this person has never done anything to do with IP or anything in the history of their involvement in the legal profession. And it looks like they've started, when did they graduate from law school? So they did a paralegal specialist. Okay, I don't know what that is. And then they were a remote consultant, and then they were a law clerk. Okay, so we need to talk about this. So this person, registered patent agent. Wow. So this person, I think, wants to be a patent attorney. And I don't know what TBA means, but yeah. So this is scary. So this person went to a good college, they went to a good law school, and they want to be a patent attorney. And they don't have really much on their resume that gives any indication that they can do that. So the only thing I can do for this person, unfortunately, they don't even patent bar yet, but the only thing I can recommend this person do if they want to get a job is to go in and figure out what you can do to clean this up. You can do clean it up to some extent in chemistry, or what is it, in biology, to clean it up. But there's not the problem with this resume, and I just need to explain it to you, and I'll explain it to everyone again. And this is one of the most, this is a very good example, and one of the most serious mistakes that every resume makes is this particular resume says school, science, and then it says recent accomplishments, patent bar, and experience. Who knows what will say, hire me. So this, by the way, is really scary. And if you're a law student, and if you're thinking about switching jobs, if you're thinking about everything that you do, sometimes you're better off doing nothing than something. I realize everyone needs to make a living. Everyone needs to do things, but you have to be careful. I know people that sell cars and make $250,000 a year in dealerships. The starting salary for a policeman in San Francisco is like $200,000 or something. It's just crazy, or maybe 150. So there's lots of ways to make money other than being an attorney. That's the first thing that's important to understand. If you're going to be an attorney, everything needs to be, you need to have a resume that looks consistent. You get hired. And the problem with this resume, and again, I don't have any animus. I'm not trying to hurt anyone's feelings. I don't want to make people feel badly about any of this. And I'm not trying to be mean, but this person is very smart. I certainly couldn't have got a bachelor's of science in biology. I probably, had I took a chemistry class, which was my worst subject, I would have probably failed out of college, probably, meaning I couldn't even pass a chemistry class. So I'm saying this person is very, very smart. Not only that, but they got into George Washington after studying science at a very good school. And so they're smart. They probably do well in the LSAT, probably a good grade. It's very hard to do in science classes. So there's a lot of things going on. Now, here's the problem with all this. So the person's doing as an officer. So this is judgmental and not an advocate. So this person is basically considering both sides and issuing a ruling. That's not something that happens with, once a person goes on the bench, they hardly ever go back to private practice. And I don't know, this isn't on the bench, it's an administrative position, but this person is not responsible for a lot of different things. And they did this. Then they were a contract attorney. So they graduated from law school in 2020. Then their first job was as a contract attorney. I don't know what we're doing there, but that has nothing to do with anything. Then, scarier yet, this person was a paralegal, even though they went to law school and presumably have the bar. I don't know. I don't even know who this is, but you can't call yourself a paralegal when you've gone to a top 20 law school. I don't know who's saying that's okay. You can't do that. This is insane. So no, you're better off having no job on your resume than this. I'm not trying to hurt people's feelings, but you just can't do it. You can't, it's not going to help you. And then managed law clerk okay, that's probably okay to have that. You don't need to put a lot of information there, right? You just say you're a law clerk like that. And then you do that. And then legal intern, Sorry, August to December. Okay, that's fine. We could talk a little bit about litigation. So then you go back, getting all this crap off this person's resume. You put this down, then you just say benefits. Okay, could be employee benefits, and this is interesting. So this person could take their resume and make themselves look like an employee benefits attorney, and if they were able to do that, or they would make sure that this fits into some sort of thing relevant to this practice area, then they're okay. So this is what you need to do to your resume. I know it's hard, but this person, they graduated in 2020. They didn't work for 2 years. Maybe they can say, maybe they, maybe they, I don't know, who knows? You can just make something up. I was doing a lot of jobs, and this is the first time I looked for a position, and that's fine. So you make yourself look like one thing. And this is what everyone has to do. I know it's hard. I know it's not easy. And I know that, but this is what you need to do. Every resume, the biggest piece of advice I can give everyone is that every single resume needs to give the reader the sense of one thing. So that means they look at it and they see science, experience, science. That's it. You can't do this. You can't make people think in different directions. You have to make people do something. Now, another thing I don't know here, which is actually pretty serious, is this person have the Florida bar. They better have the Florida bar. And the Florida bar is a hard bar to pass. So if they want to be in Florida, they better have the Florida bar. And then it just be education. There's no license. Maybe they put the Florida bar there. But this stuff, the licenses and stuff all belong at the bottom. So that's how you fix this resume out. You have to be able to go in and let me put this in. Okay. That's what you would do with this particular person. But resumes have to have the scent. It has to look like thing. You can't make it look like multiple things if they're trying to get a job. Because if you make it look like multiple things, no one's going to be interested in hiring you. It's going to create a lot of problems, and you don't need it. So I'm going to go to the next resume. Yeah, this one I like. So this is, let me make sure I might even have this person's. They'll still need help in too. Great. So this person, I'm also going to be able to go in the VCU database and look at. We had a misunderstanding of some of these. That's why I'm not getting all the database stuff. Okay. So let's look at this person's resume. Second. And by the way, if we don't do your resume today, everything you've seen so far is exactly what you need to do. There will be a recording of this, and we're going to find more of these examples as we go through of things you need to do. But it's extremely important that you do whatever you can to make sure that your resume is following kind of these rules that we're outlining in this call. And the better you do it, the better off you'll be. Okay, so let's take a look real quickly at Grammarly issues with this. So you can see here, there's about 20 issues. None of them look that serious. But again, all these punctuation and things need to be fixed. What you need to understand, this is very important, is that the fact that the better off you do this stuff, people will see what type of attorney you are. So this is just like a tryout. You're saying, I'm thorough, or I'm not thorough, or I'm extremely thorough, or I can put together things that are very sophisticated. I can do things very well. I can write well. I can take documents and make them more professional, all these things. And so if you're able to better do that, then you're in good shape. And if you can't do that, then you're in trouble. So you need to be able to make sure your documents and things are perfect. The best documents are better. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what this person's doing. So this person has a summary that comes at the very beginning of their resume. And that summary is something that a lot of people do and probably shouldn't be doing. The reason you shouldn't be doing it is because you're forcing people to read something, and you're telling them information that they can gather just from reading your resume. And this person has been out of law school for 15 plus years. Because they've been out of law school for so long, you would hope that they had done these things. All these things, drafting, serving, written discovery requests, these are things that a first-year attorney often does. They're not really that big of a deal. Writing summary judgment motions are often done. All these things are things that just attorneys do as a matter of course. So again, I'm not trying to be rude, I'm not trying to hurt this person's feelings. I'm not trying to or anything like that, but whoever, and this person probably did this because someone told them to do it. But all this information needs to come up. Now, this is another thing that people do that I don't like. People will always put on their resume if they are doing remote work. Why do you want to tell people that you're doing remote work? You tell people you're doing remote work, and it basically says, I want a job where I can work at home. I'm not interested in coming to the office or whatever. Or I need to tell you that this is the great deal I got, and I'm going to expect it in the future. So people that are working remotely get very mad when they have to come back in the office. People like remote work. So it's not, there's a whole, so you're just involving yourself in unnecessary conflict when you write remote, because they're going to, I've seen law firms withdraw offers when they found out someone was doing their last job remotely when it wasn't represented on the resume. For example, the firm was in Texas and they were working in, I don't know, California or Napa Valley or something. Firm found out that they weren't really working in Texas, even though they had a Texas bar, that they were working for a Texas firm, but they were working remotely. California firm didn't like it. And you just have to, I just would recommend not getting that discussion going. Why would you initiate that discussion that you're working remotely? If they ask you, you can certainly talk about that, but you don't want to make a big deal about it. Okay, then this person's saying they're a contract attorney. So again, 2015 to present, contract attorney, that's too much time. That means for the past 8 years, you've been working on an hourly basis or something for a law firm. You haven't settled down and they haven't offered you a full-time job, or maybe you don't want a full-time job. And that's a little scary to them. So you would basically don't want to draw attention to the fact that you're a contract attorney. That's scaring people away. It's saying, hey, this person's willing to work for an hourly basis, or maybe they don't want a permanent job and they would prefer to do this kind of work. All those sorts of questions are being raised when you call yourself a contract attorney. So I think you need to be very careful about that. So you can say you're an attorney, or you might not even just say what you are, but I guess you can say your title. And then, what would be interesting, by the way, is if you didn't have your title here, and then we just talked about all this and talked about all that, they might assume you don't have to say what you are, but you have to be very careful about that. So these are things, by the way, that all attorneys do. Attorneys research novel questions of law. Attorneys do discovery and litigation. Attorneys work with expert witnesses. Attorneys do document review. Honestly, all these things, just every attorney does pretty much. So I don't know why you would need you could just do that. That's enough. That looks a lot better than saying I do discovery. And then this person, and oh, by the way, just so everyone understands, because I remember this resume and I've got the original one in front of me. This person, by the way, is why did I take out their cup? This person, you would write experience, is trained in their experience is at a top tier law firm, like a very good law firm. And so I like this resume. I mean, this person could be very marketable if they just did a few things, because everything is pretty good. The complex litigation, then they did products liability defense. So they worked at a big law firm, a very good law firm between 2008, 2014, doing all these things. And I would just say, if this is what they did, this is what they did. So they could leave that and then they can go here. And this is really what all this is. Now, the problem is this also products liability? I don't know. Is this products liability? And is this products liability? Because if both these things are products liability, all of a sudden, this person's resume is turned in from this, people look at it, instead of thinking this person's a contract attorney, had to do this weird summary because they couldn't get a job otherwise. They just look like a law firm products liability attorney. And here we go, products liability defense, pharmaceutical and agricultural products liability defense, law clerk, pesticides enforcement division. What is that? That's the same thing as could be related to that. And then here, law clerk, administrative regulations. So if this thing all looks like products liability, agricultural liability, like all this stuff, and looks very consistent, then all the person sees is reading it is that this person is just doing this one thing. They're not drawn to the fact that the person's a contract attorney. They can see the freaking good firm. They know that the experience is all related to a certain practice area, and that's great. So the person is suddenly set up to do that. Now, I think a 3.61 is good. I don't know that you want to draw attention. You might have been the top 35% of your class. But if they're a good Marshall Scholar. But what I do is The merit scholar stuff, that's great. That an annual academic scholarship is great inflation, but it looks pretty good to me. So I don't know that I would want to say that I was in the top 15 or 35% of my class. That's not great. And then was on the international law review. That's great. Mock trial board is not really something that makes a big difference. I wouldn't put that on there. And then that's one of the problems, by the way, listing all these things for being on like Dean's list and everything. I would, and I don't think, in minors in environmental studies, so I said before that you don't necessarily want to list your minors and so forth. But here, what's interesting is everything is talking about environmental. This could be environmental. I don't know, maybe you're doing environmental liability. This could be environmental. You want the resume to show everything to do with what you're trying to do. And then magna cum laude is great. So you don't need to put on obviously if you go this grade, you don't need to put all this on. It looks great. And then Phi Beta Kappa is great. Oh, you get the scholarship. That's great. I don't know, there was another scholarship here or something, but that was great. Phi Beta Kappa, that's great. Communications officer, vice president of your German Honor Society, all that needs to come off. So when you're really strong, you don't have to draw attention to a lot of other stuff. And then the person's trying to get an application or not. So the only thing I would say about this person is if they're trying, so once you do all this stuff to the resume, it actually becomes a very good resume. And because it's a better resume with all this stuff done, this person can easily probably move into all sorts of jobs database. Give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up the resume just to show you how that would work. All right, pull the right database. Okay, so let's look at this person's resume here and what's going on. So I'm assuming after we looked at all this, that the person potentially could be, North Carolina, Washington State. So the person could potentially be products liability attorney, which is interesting. So products liability also goes in kind of two different directions. You have, and look at all the types of litigation you have. So this is just to show everyone when you're a litigator, any practice area, this is what we do. We have to drill people down into very well-defined practice areas. And if we don't do that, they don't get jobs. It's very important because you have to be focused. Law firms hire specialists. And the reason I'm bringing this up, like this resume we're looking at right now, that could be a bunch of different directions. The reason I'm bringing up specialists is because just imagine that you had some huge health problem. If you had a huge health problem, you would go to a doctor who was a specialist in what they did. And you would want to see a specialist. So an example would be, there's this procedure. Sometimes people go to the dentist, and when they go to the dentist, they do root canals and so forth. And sometimes they don't take antibiotics after doing that. And these abscesses and stuff can form in their brain and kill them. Obviously, if that happened to you, and it happens to people every year, 1,000, tens of thousands, they forget to take their antibiotics, you would want to go to a doctor that specialized in healing brain abscesses, which means they'd have to put you into a coma. And because and cool your body, whatever would slow down, and they could shrink things, and they'd have to know the type of antibiotics to give you and how all these very special things. So you would not go to like your local doctor to take care of the problem. You would find someone, if you're even capable of doing it, very, very good at that. Now, if you were an attorney, if you were a big company and you were sued for products liability, you would do the same thing. You would go to find someone. If it was a pharmaceutical case and you were sued for products liability, you would want to hire a products liability attorney doing pharmaceutical companies. This is just how companies are. And then law firms want to hire someone that is specialized in that as well. So that's just how it works. You would do the same thing if you're an attorney, if you were a client. So this is what you need to think about. You need to think like the client. You are not making yourself look good when you talk about 15 different things you do. You're just not. You're making yourself look like unhireable. Like everyone needs to understand this. When you start listing all these different societies and all these different majors and all these different responsibilities and different jobs, and making things look like 15 different things, you're just setting yourself up not to get a job. Nothing else. I mean, you can do that if you want, but that's not good. I'm sorry. It's not helping you. So now let's think of this person that, again, we've changed the firm names and so forth. But let's look at all the jobs of the person now, the product liability. Not many, but there's one here, 8 years and so forth. Not many jobs. Why aren't there many jobs? There are not a lot of jobs because people are very hard to find. So it's here. Sorry, I just opened all these windows and slowing my computer down. But so there's not a lot of jobs. And then you start getting into these recommended firms and so forth for the person. You've got these, and these firms that are recommended are going to be helpful. Now, you can also do product liability in different ways. Like you could say, potentially search under broader categories, which might be, you could things that weren't as defined. But the point is that if this person points himself into a practice where there's not a lot of people doing the same thing, they're going to be very well off. And they also, by the way, because I remember reviewing the resume, they also were at a firm that has a really good reputation for doing that. So suddenly their resume comes out and it's very well received because it's going to people that, my office is boiling, turn on the window. But so the resume is suddenly something that's very attractive to people before when it wasn't, because it's very well focused. Not only that, but the person has all sorts of options. Like it would be interesting, just to give you an example, if you take a look at going back to these BCG practice areas, and I'm just trying to show you how it works when you have a very good practice area. So here we go, products liability. I bet this, even though I'm in products. Look at this. The number one practice area, entire United States, of all the 25,000 candidates we represent, or to 35,000 law firms, the number one practice area is product liability plaintiffs. Now, this person, I believe, is a defense, but they still could say they wanted to switch sides. They would have, this means basically 100% success. These types of attorneys get jobs all the time. Now, this is out of, let me just make sure you understand. This is out of 300 plus practice areas, right? So I'm not making these numbers up. These are very sophisticated data science and stuff, but this is the most marketable practice area there is. Oh, and then we go to product liability defense. See, you can see product liability, and that's still very high, right? So below defense, you got all these things. So here we go again. This is for the smaller firms, product liability plaintiffs, product liability defense. So this is very important for everyone to understand. If this person tries to make themselves look like anything other than products liability, they're not going to have a very good shot. But if they do, they're suddenly a complete rock star. So it doesn't even matter the person's a contractor, to be honest with you. It's probably just okay. But that's how that stuff works. So if you're able to put yourself in a much better position like that, then you're going to get jobs. And this person, by the way, should be easily able to get jobs if they apply to the right firms and all that kind of stuff. It shouldn't be that difficult for them at all. Let me just look at one other thing here. Interesting. And everyone needs to understand your practice area and what's marketable and what's not. You need to, and if you understand what you could do, especially if they were interested in that, then you could do, by the way, this particular practice area in lemon law, defense and plaintiffs, these attorneys make a lot of money. And we've gotten called, they make a lot of money. We've gotten called, and this is something anyone could get into probably if you wanted to. I mean, but we've gotten calls from these firms paying people $300,000 a year with a couple of years of experience. And they make more than, and you wouldn't think so, but they make more than that. So if you go product liability, asbestos defense, asbestos plaintiffs, which is actually a little bit different, but you do those practice areas, and then you go in here, and now you look at jobs for these people in these areas. You're going to get part of the same. It's not a lot. Then you look at firms, you get a lot more of those, and then, but you can even find firms searching online. So it's just, the point is that there's a lot of opportunity for this kind of person with this background if they clean up their resume. And this is for everyone's resume. I do the same thing. Give me a second here. Next resume. Editing. Okay. Qualifications, admissions to Illinois and New York Bar. Okay, let's see what this person graduated from law school. Okay, so this is crazy. The person graduated from law school in 2019. Admissions. So what I'm showing you here is just this person needs to, in order to clean up this resume, so it's qualifications, Illinois and New York. So a lot of the stuff is, it's just presumed that you have these things if you're working in those sorts of things right there. So that's how you do that. You make sure that you clean this stuff up. So let's take a look here real quickly. Let's go to Grammarly. Let's save. And you see these resumes, by the way, it's a real pleasure to review because it can really help you. And everyone should be able to see their own mistakes that they're making in their resume, like things that they can fix. So the way you would say this, you would say represented insurance companies, but again, not a big deal. But you can see here, this particular resume, there's 32 issues. I'm not saying they're all correct, but a lot of the comma use is inconsistent. There's issues with the agreement mistake missing. There's issues with sentences that have noun strings. You can see this. There's issues with a lot of the stuff. It's not going to help you to keep having these issues. You need to fix because people want to see consistency, and people that are reading your resume are going to want to see the fact that you're doing things, like that. Okay, so this person says law firm, law clerk, bar admission pending. Okay, so it says from March of 2019 to 2021. Okay, let's talk about what's going on there. Okay, they graduated in 2000, and so between 2019 so they didn't start work until March of 2000. They started work in March of 2019, and they graduated from law school. In February. Okay, so they started right after they graduated. Okay, so let's talk about that. So here's what happened to this person, and this is very common. This person took the bar and failed it again. I don't know, but if they were a law clerk for all this time, then not good, right? So what I would hope for, and I don't think it really matters, but if the person had been, as long as they were an associate for the last part of that time, I don't know that anyone can possibly go back and check that. You have to say law clerk. You could just say law clerk and associate, bar, or you could just say law clerk. All this stuff is, I don't know how you would do it. You could just say law clerk and associate. I'm hoping that by July of this person, January 2023, I'm hoping by that time, this person had passed the bar before they became, maybe they needed to wait till January of 2023 before they passed it. I don't know. Okay, so here's what happened to this person. This person then looks like they may have lost their job because they didn't pass the bar after 4 attempts, which is not abnormal, and it happens to a lot of people. And so that needs to happen. Now he's doing insurance coverage cases. Okay, so they do insurance coverage, and then here they were doing trademark law. Here they're doing trademark law. Here they're doing trademark law. Trademark. Okay, so let's talk about all this. Okay, law school, let's talk about this. Activities, I don't see any of these activities, gala chair, lawyering in the digital age. None of these activities have anything to do with anything, the resume that we saw. But so this is resume 13. Remember, we saw the resume from the person that had gone to Georgetown Law School. That one. I don't remember what one. Oh, this was resume 9. So let's take a look here at resume 9 real quick, and I'll just show you what happens there. Resume, and we're going to come back to this one. It's very interesting. Resume 9, person says they went to Cornell, got a Bachelor of Science, and they say they got a Juris Doctorate, and then they say, I've got a Master in Laws of Taxation, which is very freaking hard, by the way. This is a 1-year program, but this person had to work their ass off like crazy to get that. It's very demanding, much more than a JD program on it, to be honest with you, a lot of times. So this person did all this crazy stuff, and yet they're not talking about anything else. And again, look at this resume, mergers and acquisitions. You can tell that the person does one thing, and that's very good. So let's go back to, I'm just showing you the process that you need to go through these. This person graduated from top 5 law school in the United States. What a freaking awesome school. And the person in Georgetown goes things, and they're listing all these activities. So all these activities, by the way, if you start limiting public interest, people think maybe they want to be a public interest thing. If they're listing the chair of a gala or something, that's not, it's not showing, it's not great. So you don't need to draw attention to stuff or lawyering in the digital age, clinical extern. You don't list anything there unless it's something that really is going to draw you out and make you look exceptional. Like the last resume we saw, a person got a full ride to a great law school and paid for it because they were so exceptional. That's something you would want to list there. But this is all you need to say. I don't know what a John Franklin Oberlin Scholar is. It sounds good. I don't know what it is. But unless it's something exceptional, you graduated from Oberlin, which is awesome in school. And so you don't need to really say anything else about that. That's perfectly fine. You went to a great college and top ranked law school, and you need to work on that. So a couple other points that I want to make sure that this person understands. So This person is now doing, this is a hard one. So this person has experience 1 year, basically 1 year of experience doing insurance defense, which is perfectly fine. And they're in a tough spot because they graduated from law school in 2019. So the past 4 years of their life, or 3 years, for the first 3 years of their life, for their career, actually for the first six, because they wanted to be, it looks like okay. So they have, this is IP, this is IP, this is IP, this all was IP, and now this is insurance defense. So here's what's happened. And again, this is very sad, and I'm not, trying to make anyone feel badly, but and this is what happened to this resume. Is this person, whatever, it's not their fault. This person has failed in IP/trademark. Now, I don't know why they failed. I don't know. But what I will say is trademark is one of the most competitive practice areas in the country because it's very competitive. It's when you start looking at the practice areas, which everyone should understand. So trademark, you can see here, it's one of the, it's got out of 79, it was one of the lowest ranked practice areas you can see here in terms of people's ability to get a job. So that's the first thing you should see. And then you go here, trademark again. Look at that, 3.55. Look at that. That is 3.55 is how low this practice area is ranked. So we had 309 candidates. We tried applying them to 11,000 firms, and look what happened. So this person is trying to get a job, and look how far they have to go. And they have to go way, like it starts at 100, and they have to go way, way down here. Now, even people, I just want you to understand when you take a look at this information, even people that went to top law schools and worked at the best firms, it's almost impossible for them to get a job in this practice area last year, right? That's pretty major news. And look at this. This is incredible. Now we're at the very bottom, right? For transactional. So this person, I want you to understand what this person's up against. Now, this is for the smaller firms, but what this person is up against is nothing short of an impossibility, because they're basically saying on their resume, and that's what we have. We're looking at resume. 1 second here. I have to find this resume. It's not easy. What this person's saying is, hey, I'm in this practice area where I didn't pass the bar, where I've taken all, maybe I got into a good firm. I didn't pass the bar. Now I'm at this other firm doing insurance defense. And so this person has a couple of different choices. One choice may be to just list this law firm and say if they left as an associate, take all this out, because I don't know, if you were a insurance defense firm, why would you possibly hire someone who looks like they want to be an IP firm? So here's what I think happened. And this happens, by the way, to a lot of people. And this is a trap that many of you will fall into that are watching this. And it's not a bad trap, it's just what it is. So what happens is people try different things. I actually saw this with a trademark attorney that I know very well. And I tried to help her. And she had been at a big trademark firm this applies to everyone on this call. She'd been at a big trademark firm in the Bay Area, and the trademark law kind of ebbs and flows when there's more companies and things being started, and there's a lot of trademark transactional work. And then when funding dries up and things get slow, then there's a lot less. So this person had been doing that type of work, and then the work slowed down, and she lost her job and couldn't get a job there. So came home, couldn't get a job in Los Angeles, and started sending out applications. The only people that interview her were insurance defense firms. She'd been making maybe $150,000 a year, and these firms are paying $60,000. And so that's where she wound up. So it's much easier to get jobs at a lot of insurance defense firms. And so a lot of times when someone has a dream of being something like a trademark attorney, and they put everything into it, and a series of bad events happen, there's nothing they can do. And so they send out applications, and the only people that will hire them. I'm not saying anything negative about insurance defense firms. There's a lot of very good ones that have exceptionally higher standards. They might be insuring entire countries, but the point is that country, I don't know, it's a small country, they might insure against some political risk or something. But the point is that this happens. And so now this person is essentially an insurance defense firm with nothing but trademark experience. What do you do? Because they didn't pass the bar, it took them 4 attempts or whatever. And then they finally passed the bar, took them a couple more years. And now they're at this law firm doing insurance defense firm. So this person has a problem. So I'm going to be completely honest with everyone on this call, and I shouldn't say this. I really shouldn't. But this person was very good in English. They got a graduated cum laude. Oberlin, by the way, is an exceptional school for English. It's a very hard school to get into. It has some kind of weird political things going on. It's very far left, but it's a very good school for English. Like someone that goes there and graduates cum laude in English is actually very skilled and smart, and it's not easy to do. You have to be very good to graduate cum laude from, because this is one of the top schools for that in the country. So the person did very well in English. And then they got into Columbia Law School, which that's awesome too. And they got a JD from there. They graduated. So they're obviously very smart there because that's a very good law school. Then they got a summer associate job with this firm. So what happened to this firm person though is that the bar was a little bit of an obstacle, I think. I don't know why. They will tell you that they didn't study enough. They will say, but the point is that this particular profession hasn't been very welcoming to someone that has gone to good schools and so forth. So if you feel badly about having gone to a bad law school, just look at that a lot of this, what can happen to anyone, regardless of the law school they go to. I see resumes like this, by the way, of people that went to Yale. That I was talking to some woman, this redheaded former tennis player, and they went there and she failed the bar like 5 or 6 times. So it just that's what it is. But sometimes the profession isn't really welcoming you. And so you have to decide what you want. Do you want to be an insurance defense firm? Because that's what's happening right now. If you try to be, this person isn't getting any guidance, just like everyone on this call hasn't been getting guidance about what do you do with your career and your life when things aren't working out and you're going in one direction. I would submit to you that part of the problem here, and really what you need to do is maybe reconsider your practice area. So you can probably continue getting jobs in insurance defense firms. If you are still there, I imagine what I would try to do is stay there for the next 10 years or whatever, so you make partner and do everything you possibly can to do well there. This is your last shot, and you need to just dedicate yourself to it. Maybe if you do 3 or 4 years of it, you'll be okay. But you need to stay there if you can, and work hard and become a superstar there and put everything you have into doing that. That's your choice. And then later on, when you start, if you have 10 years of experience, you start taking all this stuff out because you don't want several years of experience, because you do not want to look like you're trying to do something that you've ever done something different than what you're doing now. So you just have to forget that you ever wanted to do this. This is really harsh, but looking like something, then talking about your recent experience there is going to make you a marketable insurance defense firm. Now, the larger question is, you've given up your dream of being a trademark attorney. So your options are, if you want to, I know of a woman in Florida that actually represented me in a case that didn't have anywhere near the background you have and opened up her own trademark firm. So you could have a solo practice doing trademark, and you can do all sorts of things if you want. But the only other thing I would say is that because the market is so competitive, why not maybe reconsider what you're doing as your career? Because this is not working out. If the bar doesn't work out that many times, that should be a sign, because it means that this type of thinking, and it doesn't agree with you like it agrees with other attorneys. So that's a problem. And it doesn't matter, but you have a lot of talent because you do so well in school and everything. So all this stuff, it doesn't really matter that it's not working out. And again, when I say I know a trademark attorney, I actually became a recruiter, and because she couldn't get a job as a trademark attorney, and the only offers she got were from insurance defense firms. So you still can come out on top of all this, but you need to reconsider if that's what you want. Because if you are this talented in English and so forth, you could easily get jobs teaching in colleges and schools, and you could also write books. You could do jobs in academia where you taught things. You could go into other professions doing other things, because a lot of attorneys do other things besides practice law. It's very common, and it may not be something that agrees with you doing all this type of work. You obviously like trademark law, but is there anywhere else you can use it? And I don't know that the world's going to open up to you after having spent all this time trying to do it and now doing that, but you could do it on your own. So that's a recommendation that I would make for that. Okay, so so I realize that's very hard for people to hear, but sometimes it's really important to consider potentially other professions that you could do besides the one you're doing now, because that is often very good advice. For example, I certainly, when I was practicing, I didn't enjoy sitting in a office for hours, and it's just people have different interests and things, and you should go into something that clicks. The idea about being very good at something is when you're very good at something, then the world opens up to you and it's easy. Now, I'm not saying it's easy to get into any law firm. Even if you go to Stanford Law School, you still have to apply for jobs, and you're not always going to get them. But at the same time, you shouldn't have like all this resistance so far. You just had too much resistance, and at some point you may want to agree that you need to try something else. That's my piece of advice with that. Okay, give me just 1 second. I'm going to take a look at a couple things. I may have some additional resumes that have come in. I tried to review with, let me see here. Okay, I'm just looking. Now I've got resume or emails that have come in all day. Okay, well, it looks like I've gone through, let me see here. I've got through the majority of them. Oh, here we go. Let me see here. Okay, I have some. Let me just take a look at this one. Okay, so I'm going to review a couple more. Let me just see the questions. I want to make sure. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm just looking at these questions. Let me just hear. Okay, so let me just hear. Okay, so there's a lot of good questions here. So I'm going to answer some of these questions and try to get through as many of them as possible, because I think there are a lot of very good questions. I will try to answer some of these questions. We've done a lot of resumes so far, so I think there's a lot more. I have several that we haven't got to. We've been just going out for 4 hours almost. Keep a fridge in my office. So I'm going to go through and answer some of these questions. We reviewed quite a few things so far. The big thing I just want to say is almost every resume, if I haven't reviewed your resume so far, and I will try to review, but you avoid stuff, the summaries, you don't make it look like you do other things. You need to be very careful with that, and you need to have a focus on one practice area. It's very important. If you don't do that, law firms hire specialists and not generalists. That's a entire rule for all this. You need to do that. And then you don't want all these sorts of things. So take a look at this. I will make sure if you haven't received this, that it's emailed to you and very helpful for you. So I'm going to answer some questions that may be related to things that we haven't covered to make sure we do that. If you did send your resume and we haven't reviewed it yet, I will try to go through and see if there's any more, and we can maybe do some more right now. Okay, let's see. Let me just see. So I'll do the first one here. One of the first questions. No, actually, this isn't the first, but for the person who is a new attorney, let's see here, in a career crisis and went to a large law school, what advice would you have for this person if there's no substantive resume advice you can add? It's a person in their shoes, basically completely out of options. What does a career recovery look like for this person? Okay, so a lot of people feel out of options, which is fine. Out of options people, and they could be young or whatever, young, new, I don't know, new or old, whatever. So no one is out of options. That's the first thing I'd like you to understand. Anybody that's on this call, even if you're a foreign attorney and you manage to pass the bar, no one is out of options. And I'll tell you why. Absolutely no one is out of options. Just no one. If you think you're too old, if you think your schools aren't good, if you think you failed the bar too many times, if you think like you got fired, if you think I've seen people that have criminal convictions. I've seen people that have been fired for being sued for sexual. Everybody, I'm not saying I condone any of these bad activities, but I'm just saying I've seen people, and I'm not going to put my name on representing someone that's got a public sex lawsuit against them. But the point I'm saying is I've seen people with no options get jobs. I've seen people that have been out of work for a decade or more get jobs. I had this is very funny, and I'll just tell this for older attorneys. One of my first placements was of this guy that had been the head of a securities department of a very large law firm in Los Angeles. And then he had been a securities commissioner on the SEC and living in Washington, D.C. Well, it gets funny because what had happened to him is it had come out in the press that he had been married to a woman in Los Angeles and then also a woman in Washington, D.C. And when that came out, both of his marriages subsequently collapsed. And he lost his job and he lost his home and everything. And when I first started recruiting, which is 1999 or something, I had in I took out an ad. There were ads for legal recruiters,
And they asked them, these recruiters, what do you to do a little write-up? And I don't know if it was subconscious or whatever, but in this ad, I said that I specialized in getting older attorneys without business jobs. I just put that little line in there. I think it was like the National Law Journal or something. And all of a sudden, people like the guy I'm going to tell you about contacted me for jobs. He thought his career was over. And he came to talk to me, and he was so nervous and upset that he was chewing his lip, and it was all large, and it was a nervous habit, and that was going on with him. And he wanted me to help him. And so I was like, what can I do to help this guy? Like, I need to do something. And we told me, oh, I used to have a big house down the street here. I used to have that. And he was very proud of what used to be. So I started trying to help him. One day I saw this article, like in some legal news publication that came to my office. And it said something along the lines of, there was a partner saying, I've been in this business for 30 years and I've never seen this much volume of work. It's so much, I don't know what I'm going to do. And the picture of him was like surrounded by all these bankers' boxes of corporate securities related work that he couldn't handle. I decided to send my securities person there, and sure enough, they hired him. And then the firm did something incredible. It merged into DLA Piper or something. And suddenly this guy that had been out of work for years was now a partner at DLA Piper. I have stories like that. I could tell them all day, all year. I've got hundreds of stories like that. But the point is that you're never out of options. Absolutely no one is out of options. There's always plenty of jobs. I'll tell you another thing, and these are some of the worst hires I've ever made. So one of my worst hires was I had an office in Malibu, and I was sitting there, and I took out an ad for an in-house counsel. And to my astonishment, I was getting phone calls from associates at Latham and Watkins, leaving me long voicemails saying how they want to do the work. And I don't think they understood that I love this company, but I'm certainly not the type of company that can afford to pay these incredible salaries and things that you could make. I'm proud of my company, but it's not anything, that someone with that type of experience could be doing mergers and things. But anyway, the point is that person called. There was lots of calls like that and lots of top people trying to get the job. And then one day, I was overwhelmed with resumes. Like, if you're an employer and you get 2 resumes or 5 resumes, it's very easy to just open and take a look at them. But here it was like this in-house job, and I was just getting overwhelmed with all these resumes. And so I just stopped looking at them. They were all coming from our database, and I just was like, I don't have time to look at another 50 of these. This is crazy. So I just forgot about this opening. I was doing other stuff. Maybe I'll do something else. So one day I'm sitting in my office, and this woman walks in, and she's not well dressed. She's older. I don't know, anywhere from, can't tell with people, but she could have been 50 to 70. And she basically says, hey, she went to some law school I'd hardly heard of in Arizona. And she basically says, hey, I know who you are. I live locally. You're my meeting in Malibu. My daughter is at University of Michigan, and she talks about stuff you write all the time. And she sent me your things, and I watched 50 hours of your Instagram videos or something. I don't know what it was, but all this sorts of stuff. And I thought, that's great. I'll give this lady a try. And I hired her, and she was the worst attorney in the world. I couldn't even believe how bad she was. And not only that, but I was so busy. I'm working in a million different directions that I'd give her work to do, but I didn't even have time to fire her or anything. I was just like, I'll just give her some, and she stayed for a while. I wasn't allowing her to interact with client. I was just giving her like memos and things to do. But the point is, and then eventually I had to pull the plug on this, but the point is that you can get an incredible number of jobs if you just know what to do, regardless of your situation. Example would just be, say that what did you say you just wanted to do hypothetically? If you can't get a job and you want to do insurance defense firms in Los Angeles or whatever, and you can always get a job there. You can get a job there. You have all these different firms. This is the best insurance defense firm in Los Angeles. You could have trust in the states firms, whatever your practice area. And the thing is that what's nice is when you start going to these lists, like you start having all these lists of all these firms and so forth, a lot of these people never receive applications. Like these people here, let's see some of these random people. like this guy right here, if you want to work for him, you probably could. He hardly probably ever gets, if you want to do criminal law, he probably never gets people that want him to help them, that want his help, except criminals, and but want to work for him. So you can always reach out to these kind of people. You can always, if you apply to just jobs, a lot of times you may not get them. But if you apply to just people saying you want to work for them, you may get them. You could sometimes, I've seen people walk into my office and drop off their resume to for recruiting purposes, like to be represented by me as a recruiter. And I hardly, those are people I look at very closely. So it's the same thing here. If you want to try to get a position with these people, you're going to be much better off if you work on, if you apply to people directly, just like that. And what I would do is I might figure out how to email this guy, then I would call him and maybe follow up with a call or something. And people like that. These are just ways to get jobs, but it's never hopeless. You can always maneuver your way into stuff if you really want to do it. The thing is that people that get things done, that do them, are always the ones that end up succeeding. So I'm looking for more questions, trying to find the best ones. Okay, so next question is, I've taken on leadership roles in legal associations, but they're not directly related to my work. Should I include these activities on my resume? And if so, how can I make them relevant? Yeah, so that's okay. They don't have to be directly related, but they're legal associations. So the only thing that I would be careful of is you can list legal associations, but you have to be careful, about practice areas unrelated to what you are doing. You need to be careful about that. And then you need your current practice area is. You need to be careful about that. Then you also need to be careful about associations that are on one side of an issue, of a controversial issue. I personally, you're applying to jobs in New York City and you say, Trump 20 to 2025. That's probably not a good idea to list that. I'm just telling you, I'm not prejudiced against Trump or anything, but that's probably going to make a lot of people really pissed off in New York and California. Now, if you're applying to places in Iowa, Ohio, that's great, but you still don't want to put yourself on the side of a political issue, because if you do, people are just not going to like you that are like that. Now, I personally wouldn't care. I think it's very interesting what political party people are, but people will react negatively if they see associations that seem negative. This person says, I've had the opportunity to work on some high profile cases with renowned law firms. How can I mention these experiences in the resume? No, of course you can mention it. Why wouldn't you be able to mention it? First of all, there's no confidentiality agreement that says you work represented Northrop Grumman. If your name is on anything public, like in filings or anything, there's no reason that you can't mention it. I'm not telling you to violate any contracts that say you can never talk about something, but I don't know that it's really necessary for you to. You're not disclosing sensitive information. If you say you worked on a brief or you did discovery, you don't go into court and they don't have to block off the windows and shield you, put a paper bag over your face when you walk in. I don't really see that you'd be doing that. I think it's good to question it and be careful, but I don't think anybody's going to get mad at you for saying you did litigation for this or that. Everyone talks about their experiences. So I don't see that being too much of a problem. So this person says, this is an interesting one. This question is, in my previous job, I was primarily worked on transactional law, but I want to transition to litigation. How can I highlight relevant, marketable skills on my resume to make the career shift more appealing to employers? So employers are not going to like that. You certainly can do it, but here's the problem with switching practice areas. So let's talk about this, because this comes up a lot. So here's the problem with switching practice areas. One is it's lack of commitment, right? Lack of commitment. Two, you not only lack commitment, but you no experience. So no experience, meaning they could same as a first year that's hiring a law student, or risk because you might do something else, because you may be resent being given entry level work, as you even though working with or for younger people. You have all this stuff. It's just, I could go on and on. So these are the problems with switching practice areas. So what happens when you switch practice areas, it's just a lot of risk. It's experience. You may not like it. You may do the same thing with new practice area. So all these things, the law firm has to worry about if they're trying to hire you and you're switching practice areas. So these are all risks. You can highlight your relevant transferable skills to make it more appealing to employers. So you can you can de-emphasize the current work you're doing, and then in terms of what you were doing, and then you can take off a lot of information about that, and then try to put things on that show that you might have been interested in it. So if you have things in your law school background or in your college background, and then things that you've done, associations, something is related, that would be helpful. But you have to understand that it's a real risk for an employer hiring you. So what if most people do when they do that? It means you may have to move to other locations where there's a shortage of attorneys to get that experience. It means that you may have to work at firms that are far less prestigious in order to get started, and then you can move to better and better firms. But those are really your best options. And if you can do that, you'll probably wind up okay. But that would be the strategy, if I was you, that I would follow. I would try to do what I can to work to get there, to get into another firm. It's just very difficult switching practice areas. The only thing I would say to you with practice area switches is that some people or if you're switching to litigation is conflict, that's one thing to understand. If you're trying to do that you may not like that. But typically you have math, science type people, they like transactional and they're more natural for it. So people that leverages that, and then reading, et cetera, reading and writing, they like litigation stuff. So that's how that works. When you switch practice areas, that's how to think about it. Most attorneys that end up switching practice areas, what they do is they end up going to usually a smaller firm or another market where there's not a lot of people like them, and they manage to convince a firm somehow to hire them using a lot of the strategies that I cover in a lot of these webinars in my writings, and they can do it, but it's very difficult. And these are the kind of the risk that you're coming up against. So anytime you have this much risk in things, it's very important to create personal relationships or try to really sell people, not in an email, but in person, about how important this is for you and make them feel good about giving you a chance. Okay, this person asks, is it good to list public speech or publications related to legal work? And the answer is yes, absolutely. Anything that shows a commitment to networking, practicing law, et cetera, should be listed. Yes. And if you do a lot of the stuff, it's very good. People that do a lot of public speeches or publications, that's very good. Law firms love that. And the reason law firms love that is because people will say that you're at this law firm, and you're doing all this stuff, and it makes them look a lot more impressive to their clients. It's excellent to be doing that and having that on your resume. Okay, so this person says, in my previous position at a smaller firm, I was responsible for managing a team of paralegals and junior associates. How can I showcase my leadership and mentorship experience in my resume when applying for more senior roles? The way you do that, a lot of these things, like what I'm seeing in a lot of resumes, and I want to make sure that everyone understands what I'm saying. So there are expectations and givens that you will have done certain things in a legal position. So those things are like you've senior associate, supervised younger attorneys. That you don't need to tell anybody that. Everyone knows that happened. So it's not like you're coming up with some awesome insight that they would never understand if you say you did that. If you are a senior associate and the odds are very good, anybody in their right mind is going to know that you supervise younger attorneys and paralegals. Of course you are. If you're a litigation, everyone's going to know that you did discovery and wrote motions and research. All of these things, you don't need to list all these things. You're telling people a lot of these things because they know that you did it. It's like saying, I don't know, would be an example, played ice hockey, and then saying successfully skated. Yeah, of course you did. Everyone that plays hockey successfully skates. You don't want to list everything you've done that's an expectation. So I think a lot of people on their resumes are listing things that are expectation, that are just normal expectations, and it doesn't help you. You can list a little bit, but you don't have to list a lot of stuff. Okay, this is a very common question I'm doing next here. 1 second. And by the way, these are all really good questions. So I'm doing everything I can to answer as many of these. And I will, if you ask questions, and they're good, I will try to make sure I answer them right. Okay, what about more senior lawyers who want to work at a more junior level for more junior pay for quality of life reasons? I don't know if that's quality of life working at the junior level. Okay, so this is very common. So lawyers will I've been doing this for so long, but salaries went from 80 to 120,000, and they went from there to
But so a lot of times you'll be like a senior law, you'll be working somewhere, they'll be making less than a first year associate, and they'll call up and they'll say, hey, I really want to be a first year associate again. And that just doesn't work. You can't move down once you moved up. It's all, I could talk a little bit about it, but I get this question a lot. The question is, I'm a senior lawyer. Can I work as a junior associate or less? No, so you can't. And just think about it from the perspective of employers. So first year associates want to work with like that. And then senior partners want to assign work to junior people. Senior attorneys are stuck in their ways and difficult to train. Senior attorneys often resent taking orders from younger people that don't become partners. This happens for a reason. So it's just all these, and then junior firms want junior attorneys to compete with each other, partners. So this is just the whole dynamic of what's going on. So no, senior attorneys, I've never seen in 25 years of doing this job, I've never seen a senior attorney, a law firm hires senior attorney to an associate job. It just doesn't happen. They'll hire them as contract attorneys. They'll hire them as counsel and all that sort of thing. So the way this typically works, if you do want to be a senior attorney working for junior pay, is you would go to a law firm, you would work out a counsel arrangement where you're paid an hourly fee or a lower salary or something along those lines to do work for them, but you're not called an associate, you're called counsel. But no, they won't put you in the pecking order of associates trying to be partners once you haven't done that. It just doesn't work that way. Okay, another question. Let me see here. As a transition to the practice field, is it dangerous to, the transaction, the practice field is dangerous to less trademark experience for the patent experience, even though we're both intellectual property? Yes, it's okay. I guess it's okay. But how far along are you? One of the things that I would recommend is if you're at a firm, doing trademark, and you want to do a patent after patent bar, you shouldn't switch firms. You should stay and do patent work as much as possible before moving to a new practice area. So that's before trying to get a new job, because no one's going to hire. Why would someone hire you if you don't have any experience and you're like a second or third year attorney and you're trying to do something else? It's just not going to work. Intellectual property, patent law is different than trademark. It's completely different. Trademark is a trademark, and a patent, you could teach someone how to file a patent application in a weekend, even less. People do it themselves all the time. I'm not saying you can't make mistakes, but that's just how it works. So you have to, you want to, anyway, you can't, you have to do that. Let me see here. A couple sits a little bit of volume. I apologize for that. Okay, this is another question here. I apologize if we're having issues with the volume. I have people that tell me what. Okay, how should job applications handle resume sections which list activities like student activities when career service office counselors have advised an interviewer may use that section as a conversation piece during interviews? Yeah, they can use those sections as conversation pieces, I guess, if you want. But the point is that when you're trying to apply for jobs, my concern with a lot of things that I'm talking about are for lateral attorneys. For lateral attorneys, you need to make sure that you're doing the best you can to list, to show your to not have stuff on there that doesn't make sense. Now, if you're trying to do something for a law student, it's okay to list some of those activities for conversation starters if you're trying to interview people, but you just have to go back to this rule that, let me just see here, this rule earlier. The rule that you don't want to list anything that association that are on one side of a controversial issue. That's just, you have to be very careful with that. But other than that, you're probably going to be up. Okay, let me see here. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to look at one more thing. If there's no more questions, a lot of people on this. I'm trying to see. Give me 1 second. Oh, sorry. I'm just looking at something here. Right? I'm trying to look at a couple of different things here. Okay, so I'm going to try to look at a couple more resumes here because I know that there's still a lot of people on this, ton of people are still on this call. So I'm going to take a look at a couple more resumes here for everyone so they can see. We can do some more resume reviews. Now, these have all been put in the BCD database. So these particular resumes we're reviewing are in our database.
So this person, these are all, person is doing securitizations, investment funds. They have a great career. I don't really understand the dates here. Maybe they were changed. They were an associate and then it looks like they came back as counsel. Maybe these dates are wrong. No, they're not. Interesting. So this person was at this firm for 5 years. Then they came back, it looks like in 2019 after being this other firm. So this person is a securities attorney. They got a master's degree, MBA, it looks like early on in their career. They haven't listed any of they haven't listed a lot of stuff, but it looks like a pretty good resume. So I'll tell you what I like about it and what I don't, but most of the stuff I like about it, they are pretty much doing a lot of securitizations, a lot of different capital markets type work. They're doing some real estate. They're doing a lot of this stuff. This is the same type of work here that they were doing. This is the same type, very similar work here. This is very good firm, Wiley Ryan, and they got 4 years of really good experience there. So that's actually very good experience. And then just some other things like they got a 4.0 in this thing. And then they went to, where did they go? Same Cleveland Marshall. I don't know what school this is. Juris Doctor, magna cum laude, grades and stuff. This is all very good. So I don't really have any problems with this resume. This person may be having a little bit of a difficult time getting positions because they are more senior, but this person can definitely get jobs. What I would suggest, I'll just show you an example. Let's see, in a practice area, you could go in, I don't know, sys finance. I'll just give you an example. You could go in, structured finance. I'm not saying this is a practice area, but you can go in structured, but let's take a quick look at this person. Let's say there's real estate finance. We're going real estate finance, first lending, asset-backed lending. So that you would go in and I'm tired, so I'm not, I've been doing this webinar for so long, but you would go into, you could just say you went into structured finance, transportation finance. I'm just giving you a hypothetical, something you could do there. And then if you were to go in there, set this person up like that, then all of a sudden you would be able to look. So what this person's doing here is they've managed to find a lot of smaller firms that do the type of work that they do after working at Wiley Ryan. What's also very good about this is this is not doing securitizations, private offerings. So let's just take a look at this person, maybe and just call them hypothetically. Let's see here. Practice area would be corporate capital markets. Let's go to corporate capital markets. And you go there and you look at the tops and then you look at the jobs matching this person. So they're not going to be a lot of senior level jobs. There may be, but you can see here, there's actually none. This person is looking at these areas. But if you were to look at firms that did that kind of work in those markets, then suddenly you get 134 firms. And a lot of these are places that this person wouldn't normally have thought about. A lot of these are places that would be very interested in being solicited for a job. I don't know that Gin and Koppel PLC is really getting a lot of applications, or Ross and Shilga. So this is an example of someone that literally could put their head down and think their career was over. But when you look into it, there's an incredible number of potential opportunities for them. And these are just in these areas. And then you dive deep. I want everyone just to get an understanding. The reason I'm doing this is I want everyone to understand like how many potential opportunities everyone has. There's so many different places. To go capital markets, this is just an example. You search in central Jersey and all the different places there, you're going to get 34 places that could do that type of work. And a lot of these are small firms, Cohen, some things that normally wouldn't think about. So the benefit of doing all this, and what I really like about this resume, it's almost a blessing that I pull it up. So I'm just trying to pull up a few here before I log out. I'm tired, but the nice thing about this particular resume and why this is a real blessing for everyone to see is that this is someone that has basically started their career in 2006, right? 2006. It's also an older attorney because you can see not older, but they probably graduated from college in 2001. So they've been, what is that? That's 23 years after, well, they're in their 40s or something. But the point is that this is an older attorney. But what they've done, and look at all these things, the Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Economics. I don't even know what's going on with all these grades, but this is great. And then this publication, interest rate swaps, this is all related to all of CFA Institute. This is all related
to what the person wants to do. This is related to what this practice area is, and being math and science is related to it. So this is a very good resume. And then the person is, everything they're saying here is related to capital markets. So I have to think, when I think more about this person's practice area in a little more depth, but they keep moving to different firms. They've got some stability. It looks like they're trying, and they stay. And this last one place, their last gig was for 4 or 5 years. So this is a great resume. And what I want everyone to see is that this person has never been a partner anyplace. They graduated from law school in, what was it, 2000, maybe 2001. The first 13 years of their career, they were an associate. There's nothing wrong with that. It's very difficult, but they were able to stay employed, right? They were able to stay employed. And then it looks like they had a, little time off here, but they're able to stay employed again. And then they were able to stay employed. So the point is that if you commit to one practice area, you're going to keep getting hired by law firms. Had I been working with this person, I would have gotten to a lot more places and they probably were able to find these jobs. But the point is that if you commit to a practice area and you look really good in it, you can just keep going. Like, people are going to keep hiring you, and law firms will keep hiring you, because training someone to do all this kind of stuff takes a lot of time. And this person is very well suited to go in-house and do all sorts of great things. So good resume. I like it. It's very encouraging that the person could keep going. And yeah, I like it. Let me see if I can find another one for us to look at. And I appreciate that everyone's so interested in watching these resume reviews. Let me just see here. There's some of these I may have reviewed. Okay, I reviewed that one. I'm going to try a couple more. Okay, I'm going to review this one. I'm glad I found a new one. This will help a lot of people. Chair. Oh, here we go. So this person is in, you may recognize yourself. This person is in our database. They are a 2016 graduate. So versus a 2016 graduate, wow. And they graduated from University of North Carolina. This is made up, but it's the 3-point highest honors, order the coif. Okay, great. 6th grade. I like all this. Okay, here we go. We have intellectual property. See all these things that are environmental law, patent, city council. I don't know what that is, but all this stuff is intellectual property and patent. So that's really good. So now that we have that, American Institute of Chemical Engineers, or peer advisory, alpha, community, whatever, I like this. Great. But I don't think you want to have anything on there about environmental law. I'd be very careful about that. But this is all stuff related to patent. The University of Pennsylvania School of Engineering, which I'm sure is really awesome and hard to get into. All stuff related to intellectual property and so forth. Then let's go to this publications, all about patent. This student associate, all about patent and IP litigation. So these are what resumes should do. So this is another example of a very good resume, because this particular resume is following a pattern where it's showing everything related to doing one thing. So the person is in very good performance in law school. By the way, most patent attorneys do not do well in law school. Because they're engineers at the time, and I don't know, but this is very good. So this is a great resume. I don't know what else to say about it other than the person has been employed now for over a year. So I don't know what's going on there, and then they had a very short run here, and then they had a short run here. So this particular person has been very short runs at jobs. Now, 3 years isn't that long and that short, but a lot of times what happens to patent attorneys is there's very weird personalities. And so if someone doesn't like you, then it can be very difficult to stay employed. There's also lots of things to happen. So it's not the end of the world to be moving places. But this person is doing patent litigation, and that's pretty much all they're doing. So how is this person having a difficult time getting a job? This person is in Charlotte, North Carolina. So the problem here, I'll just show you, is that if this person wants to work, if they try to work in Charlotte, North Carolina, that's just an example, and you may be in this example too. So if you're intellectual property patent litigation, intellectual property patent, intellectual property litigation, this person would be what's called hard sciences. You could certainly put down the other stuff, but they would, actually, they're chemical, right? There's chemical engineering. So they're chemical engineering, but so you could put down, just hypothetically, you can put this down, and then you could put down, let's see, you could put down intellectual property, litigation general. So you could put IV general, you could put even plaintiffs if you want. You can just put all that down. That's just an idea. And so then you try to look for jobs for this person in Charlotte, which isn't going to go well. You go here and you try to see if there's any jobs because the person is in such a small market. And then you try to look at firms that may do that kind of work in Charlotte. So now you get 15 jobs, right? Or 15 firms. Then you try to look at firms that are known to do that kind of work in Charlotte, and you get 41 firms. So there's plenty of places this person could apply to if they really wanted to do that. You need to find all the places in the market. And this is what everyone else needs to do. When you think that the market is dead for what you're trying to do, you're absolutely wrong. If you are committed to a market like Charlotte and trying to do that may not be a good idea for you, just because everybody moves locations for their jobs. Every congressman in the country has to move locations for a job. So why not you? I don't understand. So this is just something that people do. So I'll just give you, so I can pull this person back up. If I was you, I would might figure out how to get more locations on my search. Maybe you now try all of North Carolina, right? Because you have the bar, so all of Carolina. And then maybe you try, in addition to all North Carolina, maybe you try Georgia, all of Georgia. I'm just giving you Georgia. And then maybe you try South Carolina, the entire state, right? So I'm just giving you some examples of things that you can do. But the more, in your type of situation, the more markets that you look at, the more opportunities you're going to have. Just here now you have these firms, but then you also have lots of other places you can look at. So I just want everyone to understand this example. So now there's 109 places, and they're in Raleigh, and there are all these different places. So this is just an example of things that I'm finding. If you did other searches on your own, you could find a lot more firms. So this is really what's going to help you, and this is what's going to change your career, is your ability to go in and start finding all of these places and applying to them, because this is the only way that you're going to be able to advance your career. There's another question. Someone says, I'll just put it up there. Someone says, to list litigation experience is a good idea to list the citations of the cases. Yeah, if you have cases that have been written up, it's a good idea to list them. Sometimes you would put them as attachments or things like that. But yeah, if you can keep your resume to one page, then yes, it's very good to do that. So, okay, I will pull up, let me see here, one more, so I can get one more resume. These resumes just keep getting better and better. Okay, I'm going to look at one more for once on the call. Believe it or not, I really enjoy reading resumes. It's crazy. And it's like a TV show. And it seems a lot of people started this and hundreds are still on. So it must be an interesting topic, which I think it's interesting. Okay, so this person says, these are all made up, these firms, that they are a estate planning administration attorney, that they did all these estate planning things, wills and trusts. I actually like all this. I think that this description is very good. I like it. I also want to show everyone a few things because this is very important. Again, I really recommend that everybody go and review this particular report, because you're going to find a lot of information in it that may either encourage you or discourage you. Trust, antitrust, litigation, trust and estates. So, okay, let's go to that. Keep going. Trust and estate general. Okay, so you can see here. These are from different ranked firms. Let me do the entire country and start here. Trust and estates general. Okay, so you can get a sense of the marketability of different practice areas compared to others this way when you get through them. I would recommend just reviewing all of these things in the BCG database. Okay, so this person been at the same job for 2.5 years. They're interested in Florida ULE, which who knows what that is. And they are an associate, and they've been there for that. And then before that, they were doing this. So all I would do with this resume, by the way, is I would just go in, and I can't modify this because of this field it's on, but a lot of the stuff I would just go in here, and I would go in and just take out this stuff, right? Okay, so that's how I would do that. You don't need to say a lot there because it detracts. This is a great resume, by the way. The person also has an LLM. I don't like all these study abroad things. People aren't impressed. What it does is say you have money to do that. Our publications are cool. I like that. They're not really related to trust and estates law, so I don't know, but it's just fun. I don't have a problem with it. And this LLM is very good, by the way, for trust and estates attorneys. And this person can get
lots and lots of jobs. This person is very marketable. The especially with all these little things that they've done. Let's say they did some other stuff related to, looks like interest in it. Oh, the professional organization, state planning, real property, all this stuff. This person has really set themselves up to be an awesome trust and estates lawyer. So I'll just show you what can happen to them. This person, I would get them jobs. They have no problems, but you just trust in the estates. The market may not be interested in them for whatever reason, but at the same time, they're much more likely to get positions. So let's see what's going to happen with them here. Within states, okay, let's go here. We have to find just in their locations. Let's see the locations. Want to see they were at bar in a couple different places. Let's get that. Well, Florida and Alabama. Great. Let's just say hypothetically, they wanted to work in, they were worried. They wanted to make sure that they could work in Florida. They're interested in all of Florida. I'll actually start with Yulee, Florida, just to show you Yulee, Florida. Okay. And I'm going to do a larger radius. I'm going to do like 50 and 50 just to make sure we don't miss anything. And here of your jobs. Look at that. I don't even know where Yulee, Florida is. It could be in the middle of nowhere for all I know. But there's always going to be a lot of opportunity for people. So here's 21 jobs and then, or 21 firms a person can apply to. And then if you go in here, you look at more and you go preferred location, you're seeing all these jobs, 144 places. And these are just places the person could apply to if they wanted to. And these are good firms, a lot of them. But then you could also go trust in the states law firms, near Yulee, and you can see here all these firms. And then what's cool also about this is then you see all these tons of places that this person can apply to. And I bet that most of these places do not have people that have LLMs in taxation and things in the focus that this person has. So it's nice to see such an awesome resume because there's definitely a lot like that. Of people that have really good resumes. Let me see if I can find one more. Okay, I'm going to do this one too. And then for me, there's such good resumes. It makes me. Okay, so this is a military resume. So if you have a military resume, it's important to understand that these types of resumes don't necessarily make it into to get jobs in law firms. So how do you fix a military resume? So this person started off as assistant chief of the personnel division, or that's their job title. And they're managing all of these for the Coast Guard. They're managing all of these different people for jobs in the military and trial and appellate counsel, federal agency, legal, trial and appellate lawyer. Okay. Experience. Yeah, so that's all good. Technical skills are fine. But the problem is you need to talk about how this is related to what the law firm may need. So I would, when you start talking about all this, I probably would just put the summary and then lead it at that. Then trial counsel, I would probably instead of listing all this stuff, I would just remove the majority of this. The problem with military resumes, I don't know why they do this, but people encourage people in the military to write these long resumes. They always come over like this. And the reason they don't work is because they're just saying too many things and people don't understand it. And then this is pretty freaking awesome. The person was a U.S. attorney for 2 years. It was a very difficult job to get. I mean, there's special ones, different, but I would just, again, take all this off. Same thing. Coast Guard, I would take all this off. So a lot of the things that people do with military resumes are just too long. A lot of times, and then they were in the intelligence analyst, was pretty cool. I don't know if you know what that is, but yeah. So this is basically what you need to do with a military resume, shorten everything up. And then what I would personally do with this person is then I would the problem is this job is more like an HR director. And then the last jobs a person had were closer to doing other types of work. So meaning doing criminal prosecution. So what I would probably do with this person after fixing all that, I would market them as a criminal attorney. The same thing goes with this particular resume in terms of how you would frame it. You would frame it in terms of someone doing criminal law, and then you would downplay the assistant chief of the personnel division for the past 2 years. You would just basically try to talk about all the criminal experience. And if you had a one-page resume talking about nothing but the work on your criminal law, you would definitely be able to get a position. Just to give you, I'll just do this one last thing for this resume. So once you clean it up using the type of things that I've taught you today, then you start looking at criminal law, defense, you get in there.
And the idea that he knows how to do that, then you go in and you start looking at jobs. I don't even know what areas we set up for you. What are these areas? Alameda. Yeah, you start looking at all these and look at all these positions there are. And then you start looking at matching jobs in these areas. Companies pay firms to do that kind of work. And you get all these firms. The idea would be you can pretty much apply to any job that has any criminal law firm that has a criminal law practice, or any criminal law solo practitioner you can apply to in those geographic areas. All right, that about wraps it up. I do have a lot more resumes. I may schedule some time next week if I didn't go over your resume to do more of them, because there's still a lot. It's just this webinar has been almost 5 hours, and it's just a lot of talking. And I'm getting a little tired, so I don't want to give bad advice to people about their resumes. But I really would recommend following. If you took notes, the big things to get out of this, the number one thing that you need to get out of this webinar, and I hope it's been helpful. We will put up a recording at some point, but you need to, some of the biggest mistakes that people are making, and really the biggest mistake that I see, is that people are listing things that the resume doesn't have the scent of the practice area they're trying to do. So this public document here that I've sent out may not talk about that too much, but you have to, you don't list skills unless they're extraordinary, and you don't make it look like you're doing another practice area that you're trying to get a job in. So you have to make sure that your resume is as focused as possible on one practice area, and it looks that way, and that you frame things that way. Because if you don't do that, it's going to hurt you. And you need to eliminate all of the unnecessary stuff on your resume in order to get a position. So I do have a record of everyone who sent their resumes that I didn't review. If I didn't review your resume, I would have put it in a pile that it had issues that we have reviewed on this call, but I still would like to try to get as many resumes as possible reviewed. It's just impossible really to talk about this more than 5 hours at a time. So I don't know that I can get to more questions either. I could get to more questions, but I think we've answered the better ones. I certainly appreciate everyone being on this today. Next week and then the following weeks, we may come back to the resumes, but we obviously do this once every quarter. So your resume will be saved, and if it's a good example, we'll try to prioritize it next quarter. And then the other thing would just be, I may do a cover letter workshop, but going back and looking at the old cover letter workshops that are on the BCG site would be very helpful for you, because the people are making the same mistakes there. They're going in there, and I realize a cover letter goes with the resume. So they're doing things like writing an awful lot of information on their cover letters when it talks about things other than one practice area, and gives them interest in things and explains things that don't need explaining. And typically a cover letter just needs to be very direct and short. So I would recommend, as a complement to what you may have learned today, going back and looking very closely at cover letters, the cover letter workshop as well, to understand that, and then making sure you focus things as much as you can. Foreign resumes, most all foreign resumes and military resumes need an incredible amount of work, and that's bad. I just want to go over too, because I know that there's probably some people on this call whose resumes we didn't get to. I do have a couple of pieces of advice for some resumes I'm just remembering that we didn't talk about. A lot of times people will use fancy blocks, fancy colors, putting things in different locations, like on the side of resumes, like highlighting them in weird ways and things like that. And that, just to be completely clear with you, that does not help you. It actually hurts you, because it makes it look like it just looks weird. It's not how a resume should work. A resume is just very standard. And people that do that to their resumes typically don't have the strongest background. You don't see someone that went to University of Michigan Law School putting weird colors and things and pictures on resumes and all that sort of stuff. So you need to make sure that things look normal. You need to get rid of these summaries on your resume. Those are going to hurt you. You need to take off associations and things that don't have anything to do with what you are doing, or to make it look like you want to do a different practice area. And then you need to be very careful about listing all these associations and things that are not extraordinary on your school. You don't go into court and play down your client and say he only had 4 drinks when it's like a fatal DUI case and not 5. And you have to be very careful about not highlighting negative information. Be very careful about that. And also putting, a lot of people we saw had these very short jobs. You don't put them on there. People want to see people that are focused on one practice area. So I hope that helps. The things I've told you, if you understand them and you can fix your resume, it will change the direction of your life and career. If you are new, someone that's new, trying to get a job, I think all this information should help you and give you suggestions that you can use for the rest of your career and life that will help you with that as well. So apologize I didn't get everyone's resume. I will make sure that everyone receives this document, which I don't even think is public. And I appreciate everyone being here, and have a good rest of your Wednesday. Thanks.